today's episode of the True Story of comicsgate. Like every episode, this one is brought to you by our cool good person backers on Subscribestar at subscribestar.adult/shitty-webcomics. The link is in the description below. The episode disclaimer for this series: everything we bring up in these episodes is independently verified by direct evidence and multiple unbiased sources. Opinions will be disclaimed beforehand. If you think something we state as fact is instead speculation or opinion, you have already been disproven before you've spoken, and your false statement will be discarded, as well as any of your rationalizations. Remember, kids, if you were correct, you would have already been us, which is why your favorite creators behind your backs say you should have listened to Shitty Webcomics. So today's episode, Proto Comicsgate and the Comics Biz in 2017, a Jim Tuner timeline. So this one isn't even by us. This was a comment, or a series of comments that Jim Tuner, who's, as far as I know, Jim Tuner is just somebody. He is a person who has left comments on YouTube videos. That's right. He'll show up in live stream chat sometimes too, and usually he has a lot to say that's insightful and I don't know if I can even say researched, but you know, a lot of it is stuff that I've personally observed and that kind of thing. So
it's backed up.
Yeah, it's backed up, so it's at least insightful.
So certainly more insightful than anyone else.
He's posted some timelines of various things that we've done videos about because it's like it's easy content. It's like it's free real estate. But he's left a I think it was on the first episode of the of our series True Story of Comicsgate. He left a few comments about just general timestamps, a timeline of sort of the beginning of Comicsgate. And this helps provide some context of the American comics industry at the time that Comicsgate started, and also some context of the general Comicsgate, you know, the attitude and the what was going on, mostly around 2017, which is when Comicsgate's basically considered to have actually begun. 2017 and especially like early 2018 is when a lot of Comicsgate things happen. Now, I'm pointing out that these are the Jim Tuner timeline. These are basically all written by him. So I personally normally couldn't vouch for it, but a lot of this is stuff that I've also witnessed and remembered. So Jim Tuner, I know Jim Tuner's probably more studied and accurate than even we can be.
Yeah, he's pointed out a few things. He's definitely at least managed to organize some of these ideas, these occurrences.
Which is why I just straight up copied and pasted his comment and just threw it into our notes, because it's a good it's well, not concise, but it's certainly factual, it's accurate. He brings up some stuff that even I forgot, and we'll get into that then. Another note on another subject, this one tries to show Comicsgate happened in 2017 from the perspective of Marvel. 2017 was a total disaster for the comics business inside Marvel. Sales were down. The massive investment Axel Alonso made into SJW Comics had failed, and Marvel kept putting its foot in its mouth. That's Jim Tuner's intro to his timeline. Now, he made several posts. Jim Tuner made several posts about in a way, different timelines, or sort of retreading a previous timeline he had posted. So I'm going to just read all of those because all of it provides a lot of historical context for the comics industry in 2017 and the beginning of the idea of the Comicsgate movement, as much as it can even be called a movement. It ultimately was more objectively a cult that was based more on attacking itself than anything else.
Comicsgate occurrence.
And again, that as disclaimed, that's not our opinion, that's not our speculation. That is objectively true, that Comicsgate was more of a cult that was based more on attacking itself than putting out any quality comics, because and all of that can be proven with direct evidence. And if we've already done that, so we won't be getting into that in this video, but in future videos, we probably even won't be getting into that because, again, if we claim it, it's true. It's already been proven with evidence. We've already, in fact, shown the evidence directly in multiple cases on our previous channel, which was false flagged into oblivion. So if anyone's like, where's the evidence of that? You sat around as the evidence was covered up by your movement. So, and again, we're saying that to people who supported comicsgate.
A lot of the people who fucking asked that question tend to be the exact people who false flagged our channel.
Yes, exactly. Even after we made the new channel, some of them who were former comicsgate came to false flag. But anyways, none of that has anything to do with today's topic.
It all does have something to do with today's topic.
Yeah, so in the grand, that's the thing. We're always been too big picture for most people. So when people are like, "Oh, you guys like change the subject too much," that's actually we are too aware of the grand scheme of everything going on in objective reality, not merely one single little topic. We're capable of perceiving like 20,000 things simultaneously, while the rest of you are like, "Why are you bringing up this other thing?" Because it's all related. That's why we're.
Why did you mention that thing? Because it's related.
And because it's true. That's another important thing that comicsgate never appreciated or was able to emotionally perceive or conceive of, is that it's true. And if it's true, it's always worth saying. That's one of our credos, is if it's true, it's always worth saying, no matter what. The truth is more important than your PR or fucking your...
kind of like, if it can be destroyed by the truth, it deserves to be destroyed by the truth.
That famous quote by the wonderful, brilliant genius man, Neil Breen, from, not Twisted Pair, but what was the other one? I don't fucking know. I am here.
I'm here. Now.
Anyways, the other thing I want to point out, real quick, was that when we talk about all of you sat around blah 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 while our channel's false flagged, we're saying that to comicsgate, of course, and our supporters, the people who support us, are actually the cool people who did at least speak up or have something to do, or at least they're supporting actual telling of the truth instead of obfuscate. Like comicsgate openly supports lying and obfuscation, every single member of it, but every supporter of ours supports telling the truth and revealing objective reality and speaking it outwardly. And again, that's not my opinion or observation or anything. That's what even other creators, not just YouTube fans watching and that kind of shit, but other creators in comics have said that we're like the most honest people on YouTube, or especially
that was actually something Doug TeNaples specifically was mentioning. It's like, you're too honest.
Yes.
Nobody can be as honest as you.
And, well, again, we've gone into that in previous videos, and there's a lot that can be said about that. But anyways, back to the Jim Tuner timestamps, though. It starts with, the beginning of 2017, January. He says, Marvel attempts to roll back the digital codes that they had been including in print comics, trying to increase print comic sales. There's an immediate rebellion, and they give up on that policy. That was, there's a bigger story with that, too. That was a very bizarre situation where... I remember, like, people at Barnes & Noble, people who worked at Barnes & Noble, like, just at the cashiers even, were like, this is really fucked up that Marvel's putting in, like, with every copy that they sell of a Marvel comic, in the back or something is a digital code to be able to just download it. So if someone could just go in, open the comic, snap a picture on their phone, then go home and just cash in the digital code at the Marvel website and just get the comic for free digitally. And they're like, we're just going to lose sales from this. And Marvel was like, oh no, we fucked up. So yeah, that backfired. And that's a detail that I forgot from a long time. Like 2017 doesn't even... Is that a long time ago? Yeah, technically it is right now because it's 2021 right now. So then March 2017, Axel Alonso, who's the editor-in-chief at Marvel, one of the big wigs at Marvel Comics specifically, which means the smallest part of Marvel Comics, not the movies or even the TV shows or even the fucking animated shows or, whatever. Even the animated direct to DVD special things that they make, probably bigger than the comics. But Axel Alonso tells comics retailers at a meeting that popular artists don't increase comic sales. That's an interesting concept, an interesting thing to say. The message is taken as being that the retailers should just sell the books Marvel is producing and keep any ideas about increasing sales to themselves. The retailers get upset. So basically what comes off as is Axel Alonso, like the retailers, comic stores are like in a desperate situation already because the comics suck. American comics in general suck. Back issues really kind of suck. They're not only not drawing in new customers, they're pushing out potential new customers. And not just Marvel or DC, but the comics medium in general in America. In fact, even that becomes an element of comicsgate is many people in comicsgate, including Ethan Van Sciver himself and John Malin and even guys like Mike S. Miller and Richard C. Meyer, have openly said on the public record that they don't want to appeal to new customers. They want to appeal to the same old customers and sell a boutique product that's like limited edition collector. Like Mitch Breitweiser openly calls his comics collector's items, that inherently precludes selling to new customers. That means just selling to the same old comic book fans who are literally elderly at this point. Many of them are 30 years old, 40, 50, 60. The average age of an American comic book fan these days is about 60 years old. And they just buy comics not even to read them, but simply to collect them in an empty consumerist kind of way.
Some of them claim that they'll be worth a lot of money someday. Some people don't even go with that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are just like, no, I really love them. There's nothing like the feel of paper.
The feel of a comic. And again, none of this is our speculation. All of this has been stuff that other comic book artists and creators have been saying for decades before we ever had anything to say about this. Dave Sim, in fact, very famously was pointing out that, the comics audience is not only shrinking but trying to keep they basically want to keep other people because they want comics to be exclusive to them.
It's very hipster movement. It's what I was saying a long time ago.
It's very fandom too.
Comics are for hipsters.
Yes,
they're not for anyone who enjoys. They're certainly not for people who enjoy a story or reading.
You could even say, now this part's our opinion, you could say that comics, American comics, superhero comics, are for big gay wads, but that's just my opinion. It's an informed opinion backed up by other people's observations and speculation and facts, proven evidence, that kind of thing. But anyways, but all of this points to a giant, like a sort of a critical mass of the failure of the entire medium in America. The thing is that one of our other points, I guess you could say, this is just our opinion, but American comics had basically already died. Like in 2017, the American comics industry wasn't dying, it was already dead. It was selling to the last shred of people who would buy comics no matter what. It's basically like the cockroaches after a nuclear meltdown or a nuclear holocaust is just the last shred of the tiniest minority of the bottom rung of nerd culture. It's like the even among fans, comic book fans are like the bottom rung of fandoms. Anyways, so back to Jim Turner's
comic books and Star Wars nerds.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays.
Anyways, by the way, that's not me smacking my lips. That's the inside of my throat opening. I don't know why it's fucking opening so loudly. It's really annoying to me. But it doesn't matter. Who cares? March 2017, Marvel's VP of Sales does an honest interview where he says Marvel's readers and retailers, didn't want female characters out there. That's what we heard. Whether we believe that or not, I don't know that that's actually true. That's what we saw in sales. We saw the sales of any character that was diverse, any character that was new, our female characters, anything that was not a core Marvel character, people were turning their nose up against. End quote.
And it goes to show how uncreative they are when they say that. And you know that their logic is, oh, it's because they're diverse. It's because they're female.
It's because they suck.
It's because they're SJW shit. It's because they're hard leftist politics.
Even if they weren't SJW shit, they were still shit. I mean, the comics mostly were still shit even before then. They just became more overtly like leftist political brainwashing, implanted. And then, when they don't sell because the comics are so much worse or just more annoying, or they happen to slander the entire male gender in this issue again. So the comics sell, and then Marvel comes up and said, the VP of sales comes up and just does a cope. He does a rationalization where he just blames the audience doesn't want to see female characters, when really nobody wanted to read most of these comics. People were just they were basically badgered to finally stop buying comics that most of them weren't reading, or that store owners find annoying. Like, it's like here's a comic that sucks, nobody really cares to read it, but the store will stock it. Now it becomes openly repellent and like weird, creepy propaganda. And again, the first people to point this out were us before comicsgate ever existed. Back in the original blog, years before comicsgate. But the thing is that we also knew the solution, which was just stop buying Marvel and DC, and that was the one thing that comicsgate didn't have the balls. They weren't man enough to actually commit to that, which is why our form of what comicsgate should be was always superior. And again, none of this is our speculation. All of this is objective fact. But it also is not beside the point. It's completely on point, but it's also part of the reason why Marvel was already
why is this happening? This happened too? You have to explain all this shit to people, and people are like, wait, you got to go back. All this shit is just piling up. It's the invisible knapsack.
Yes, you got to unpack that invisible knapsack. This is a lot to unpack, But also, yeah, anyone should want to know the full story. They should want to know more. Do you want to know more?
The full story is fascinating and depressing.
Yes, but also worthwhile. It's a story worth telling and worth knowing if you actually care about knowing anything. Now, if you don't like knowing things, then yeah, you're not going to want to hear us give extra information. But that's because you're an inferior person. Possibly
we're going to tell you right now, turn off the video.
Yes, go ahead, turn off the video, unsubscribe. Make sure you're still unsubscribed. Don't hit the bell. Anyways. So the sales VP says, anything that was not a core Marvel character, people are turning their nose up against. They don't like the female characters. And of course, this is all an excuse for stuff like female Thor, where she was openly like, there was just weird, like, misogynists are the real problem with Thor and the universe.
And they were complete straw man misogynists too. It was stuff nobody was saying.
But it was also turning society misogynist correctly and justifiably. Not just the comics, but all of, the culture was turning society correctly misogynist. Which, in our opinion, is a good thing. I'm for it. But anyways, yeah, so the sales VP is immediately forced to retract the statement by an SJW mob. It was actually the SJWs who fucking came after him for that. But internally, they had given up on SJW Comics, or at least, in name. Anyways, April 2017, Marvel relaunches X-Men, and let me actually go back a little bit.
They relaunched X-Men. Is this the second time they launched X-Men?
Oh, they've never launched. They've only launched X-Men one time before. What an interesting thing. But anyways, just going back to the previous timestamp, actually, from March, Jim Tooner, this is Jim Tooner saying internally they had given up on SJW Comics. I I personally don't really think that they gave up on SJW Comics. They just saw it, like, in a weird public way, they saw it as kind of a losing gig. But they still, at the same time, like, they had been leftist, or already leftist, for a long fucking time. Before the 2010s, even. Really going back to the 90s in a way. And leftist politics has sort of been a part of the art world and art culture for many, many decades already. So, as far as Marvel giving up on the SJW comics, I don't think they did. But in a way, I think they did internally. I think Jim Tuner does have another point, at least, where internally Marvel is like, okay, we're not going to be overtly, like, we're not going to make comics that are like directly mentioning and attacking Gamergate or something like that. They're like, okay, fuck this, we'll try and just do comics. But the thing is that the comics they're doing are still innately leftist, so there's always going to be some SJW stuff in there. There is, like, innately political stuff too. Like, I mean, in a way, X-Men was always innately political, all the way. It's as Deadpool in the wonderful Deadpool 2 movie said, thinly veiled allegory for racism in the 1960s. That's really what a lot of the, Captain America too would be overtly political from the beginning, and to the even into like the 70s and the 80s and even the 90s and the 2000s and so on, like that. Where, I remember Comics Alliance, which was an overtly leftist thing, was talking about, like, oh, the Ed Brubaker run of Captain America was really good because it was about, American hegemony. And it's like, okay, that sounds like a bunch of gay bullshit, in my opinion.
Sounds
But
like
again, it goes to show the political aspect. Maybe Marvel gave up on SJW comics in early 2017, but that doesn't mean that they stopped being SJWs. They stopped being leftists, of course, or that the comics would stop espousing any leftist political thing. Anyways, April 2017. Back to the timestamps, basically. April 2017, Marvel relaunches X-Men and it immediately derails when a Muslim artist, Ardian Syaf, starts putting extreme political stuff into the comics. The artist is let go. I remember again, that's a bigger story. You could probably go find articles or blog posts.
It was hilarious, though.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. Maybe
destroy Israel shit.
Yeah, maybe a little based. I don't know. Based a tad
relatively red. Did they dilute some red pills?
A few crushed up red pills in the background there.
In a basting turkey baster.
Yes, one of the other things actually that almost seemed like a stretch, but at the same time, like, artists tend to know, like, they fucking sneak this stuff in. There's a long history of that, even with people we could mention in comicsgate, but not really worth mentioning. But Ardian Syaf apparently, because
Not
Kitty
really
Pryde is a Jewish character, he put, like, jewelry store sign, but it just says Jew, and it's cut off right next to Kitty Pryde's head. And that was one of the secret messages he supposedly snuck in, which sounds like a reach, but I'm sure he knew what he was doing too, which in a way is kind of funny. But at the same time, he's doing it in the same sense that it's like, he's not doing it because the fucking let's make fun of Jews. He's not about, like, Ardian Syaf wasn't about to start doing a Wyatt Man cartoons or anything.
Unfortunately,
that I know of. Now again, that part's my opinion. But the thing is that the impression I got was that Ardian Syaf was really just like America with racist white supremacy and that kind of shit. But also was like,
these are
Jews.
These are stock standard viewpoints for a lot of these people.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that. They're like, oh, if you hate Jews, you must be like fervently super right wing. But it's like, no, there's a giant contingent of the left wing that thinks that Israel should be destroyed, not because it's antithetical to Christianity, or they kill Jesus, or the usury, or that they think the Holocaust didn't happen, or any of that kind of thing. but because they're oppressing the poor minorities of the Middle East, where, of course, in the Middle East, they're not minorities, and that, diversity is the strength, so we should import all the Muslims into white countries or whatever like that to replace and destroy white people. Again, this is stuff that a lot of them say openly, and most likely it is something that Ardian Syaf unironically believes. Now, I don't know if he does. It's just the impression that he was giving off from. And again, that's the kind of the leftist tack, is that Israel is, with the help of America, oppressing the unfortunate minorities of the Middle East, which is, of course, a completely fallacious fellatio. It's an untrue and very low IQ understanding of the Middle East, of course, because Middle East is one of the richest places in the entire world due to oil wealth, and the disparity between the rich and poor in the Middle East is entirely manufactured by the culture and the oil ticks, but also by their religion in a way. And but that actually is kind of derailing. So back to the times. But again, like I said, that alone is
back to our
is a very interesting topic.
It's a worthwhile topic to actually think about.
Yes.
Don't people want to think?
Don't people like thinking? I don't know. Anyways,
I like thinking, but apparently I'm one of the few.
Yeah, well, I guess we're kind of a minority. We like to think. We like to use it. I'm into free speech.
I like to think. I like to read.
I want high cholesterol.
I'm into freedom of choice and freedom of speech.
I want to decide, do I want the fucking extra gravy fries bacon burger? I don't actually remember that part. I don't remember that line, but I remember it was really good. One of the most classic
butter and buckets of cheese
from something far better than any comic book I've ever read. It's a little movie called Demolition Man. A classic, timeless classic.
Timeless. Perfect.
Anyways, May 2017, after Marvel. If I mention a timestamp, by the way, I'm returning to Jim Tuner's timestampery here. So May 2017, after Marvel reveals that Captain America is a lifelong Nazi, the reaction is so bad that they change course and promise publicly that readers should patiently wait for the happy ending of the story. Yeah, I remember that. I forgot that was 2017. It almost seems like it was longer ago, like 2015.
You have another certain beloved movie, Cop Out.
Anyways, June 2017, Marvel announces that they're bringing back their classic heroes. Again? Are they relaunching something?
Do those heroes cease to exist at some point? What happened to them?
Do they stop publishing them? I don't know. Anyways, bring back their classic heroes in a mega project called Marvel Legacy. Wow. Reaction was generally hostile because creative teams were not being changed on any of the books, and because Marvel tried to strong-arm retailers to produce good sales on the books, which is, again, that's where there's a lot of hostility between retailers and the companies. Thing is that, all of this predates fucking 2017. So
they don't want to hear any input from the retailers, but at the same time, it's entirely on the retailers if the book sucks or not.
Yeah, that's basically what like Marvel and DC are implying here, is that if the books suck and don't sell, they blame the retailers. When, obviously it's not their fault, and most retailers were just by that time branching out into either manga and or collectibles, Funko Pops. As much as they suck, apparently they do sell, so it's like not stocking them is kind of a mugs game in a way, but also like, selling Magic the Gathering, Pokemon cards, that kind of shit, or even just selling tabletop games. Our local store, also does baseball cards, coins, that kind of thing. Anyways, and here's the thing: 2017, it wasn't new, but it was definitely it was reaching this fever pitch, this critical mass of just the hostility between the comics companies that basically thought, any shit they put out would sell because it would. So they which
is kind of backed up by people like Richard, who's like, "Oh, it's Spider-Man. I'll buy Spider-Man no matter what."
Yeah.
This is Spider-Man gave me fucking botulism Well, gotta have my Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, Richard, but also pretty much all of his fans, which were the average comic book nerd in America. Most of them are 40 or 50 years old. Most of them will just buy Marvel and or DC regardless. If it gives them botulism,
They'll
they
even get
buy it
angry.
anyways.
It's like, oh, it's Marvel. Oh, it's DC. I don't like them. And it's like, they're the same shit. Who cares?
Yeah,
They're both
they
shit.
none of them are really any good. They're the same continuing to continue with perpetual cape shit that's meant to never ever tell a story. It's just meant to lead into the next reader or writer's run on the character. And it's like, you can do that, but your lunch is being eaten by manga that is explicitly created to tell a complete story that has an ending. No cape shit is designed to ever have an ending. Marvel and DC stories are not designed to have an ending. They're designed to be picked up and continued on, and the continuity just continues into the next series or the next run instead of having a final conclusion. And they've even done final conclusions, and they're a mess, like that Daredevil End of Days, where Daredevil dies like a bleeding rat in the shit sewer toilet of Diarrhea, New York's shitty.
He gets flushed down the toilet.
Like a gay wad.
Like
Why
the
did you do
piece
that?
of shit that he is.
Why?
Is his friend writing a fucking article about his death like
Yeah,
this?
why did Ben Urich of the Daily Post Sun fucking describe his friend
Daily
Daredevil
Post
that way?
Sunstormer.
The Daily Post. I didn't know he was based and red pilled. Holy shit. Anyways, so yeah, 2017. Again, it's like just the critical mass was being reached, but just because it was a lot of the disrespect from the customers and but at the same time,
The
one
sellers
very important point
disrespecting
that
their
needs to be
customers.
pointed out is that the customers being hostile to the creators had never been anything new. Again, that hadn't reached a boiling point in 2017. Marvel and DC had dealt with decades and decades of like fan backlash and fan movements for like refund your comic, fucking demand a refund for this really bad DC run in fucking 2003 and that kind of shit, and fan backlash after fan backlash after fan backlash from costume changes or changes in
Really
management
trivial,
or
stupid shit too. It's not necessarily, oh man, they're mistreating the customers.
yeah,
It's like,
because
change so and so's costume so it doesn't look the same as when I was growing up. Fuck this shit.
in fact, we'll end this part and continue on the next part right after I make this point. But one thing I will always remember is the legendary classic Batman Year One storyline. That was only like 4 issues by Frank Miller, who is to this day, I think, criminally underrated, even as he's remembered as a fucking legend, and a lot of his comics are the basis for some of the best comic book movies adaptations. When he did Batman Year One, there were a lot of the fans of Batman who were like, "He ruined Batman. What the fuck is this shit?" Just fucking that fan backlash. That's
Wasn't
what
that
the
either?
companies had been used to dealing with already by that point. That was the late '80s.
That was either right after the Dark Knight Returns or right before it.
Dark Knight Returns was actually before that, I think. And the thing is that there were still people who were like, "Oh, this is really cool, a new take." But some people were like, "It's different. I
That
don't
was
like it."
how they
They're
changed
different.
the character. Before then, Batman had been camp like the not
Well,
the cartoon, Adam West
not too
for
much,
years
but there have
and years.
been elements going back and forth where it'd been camp, where it would be funny, where it would be back to serious. And I don't think Frank Miller was the first to go back to serious, but he had a new take. First of all, Dark Knight Returns is about an old Batman who had retired for years. Again, that's a different take. And then Batman Year One was about before he was even Batman. It was about those weird middle years that the other comics wouldn't really touch. And again, that was a fresh take, and that was It was even a different take on like Commissioner Gordon was like a fucking now he's a veteran badass or something like that too. But it was like it goes into more detail about like just general corruption instead of like the rogues gallery of colorful villains. It was like the mafia just ran the town, and in a way that did ruin Batman by making it better, and that's where Batman Begins and The Dark Knight really come from. So that stuff was good, but the fans are always going to have a backlash to any change. So the thing is, whether the fans are right or wrong, the companies are used to dealing with fan backlash over anything. So they have to blow all of it off, which is still kind of the right attitude, even as Marvel was incorrect in this case. Like turning Captain America into a Nazi was stupid, of course, and it was a bad story regardless of the ending, because the ending is like, oh, a part of the cosmic cube breaks off and turns into like an alternate universe, so he gets replaced with an alternate universe Captain America that was a Nazi, so he gets replaced, and it's just like, okay,
typical comic book logic.
Yes,
typical comic book logic.
The pure comic book logic of it.
The purest form of comic book logic.
Yes, exactly. What was the guy's name in Deadwood? I don't remember his name, but he would certainly say something like that.
He would certainly have something to say about the purest forms of comic book logic.
He may be experienced in that from up in Utica, even, or not up in Utica, because I think technically Utica is more of a straight line across, but whatever. It's very distant. Anyways, yeah, so we'll wrap up this part of the episode. Just on that note, that the comic book companies had been used to having to ignore. It's sort of like the old, like, never apologize. If you get the complaints, just ignore it and move on. Like, fucking ignore the SJW complaints. That's true. The thing is that at the same time, if you're going to ignore the complaints of them, you do have to ignore the complaints of everyone, which means ignoring the complaints of, like, the regular customers, which is, not really customer. They're fans, not customers. A customer will drop something if they don't like it. A customer
that's
doesn't
actually
complain.
A really good point. A customer has standards.
Yeah, if a customer actually has standards, they just go buy something else if they don't like this thing. Like fucking, I may be a customer of ice cream. If I buy some ice cream I don't like, I don't write a complaint to the company being like, "Eat this shit." I'll just be like, I'm not gonna buy.
And then buy more of it. Buy more of it. Never eat it.
Yeah,
I'm actually saving this.
In fact, we pointed this out like while 2017 was going on. We pointed out that the comicsgate solution to all these problems was like if Gamergate all went and bought up Depression Quest. It's like fucking. They're like, oh, Zoe Quinn, she's terrible. She's a crazy lady. We're buying her book. We're buying her game just to show them we're the real fans of games. That's stupid, and Gamergate didn't do that, but comicsgate did, and that's why comicsgate was a failed movement, and that's really what the series ultimately, we had already proven that, and this series ultimately shows why, and basically the why of how we proved it, and why it is true that comicsgate was ultimately a failed movement by its own ideals, and then also through its own actions against itself and other creators and customers within its own movement. But anyways, we'll continue
to itself and others.
Yes, we will continue with this in the next part. Remember, if you are backing us on Subscribe Star, you can watch all of the parts and a lot of other extra bonus secret videos that you cannot get on our public YouTube channel, because the scum of the comic book fans just false flag our videos for no reason, just because they're mad at the truth and objective fact. So in order to watch these
consumerist movement,
in order to watch our videos, you basically have to pay get through the $5 paywall. And again, I wanted it to be $1, but we made it $1, and the people who false flagged our videos just paid $1 to false flag our videos. And it's like, that's not fair to the people who pay $1 to actually watch our videos, including other big time, super big shots, shiny, fancy comic creators. So we
The
had to
only
make it
people
$5 to
it's
keep out
is
the
the people
scum of
who
the
wanted to
earth.
shut us down. So if that's the case, why be fair to them? We're
Yeah,
going to
exactly.
stop being fair to them.
So yeah, if you really want to watch these videos, if you want to watch these videos ahead of the scum of the earth, the loser freeloaders, join the shitty webcomics pay pigs, and $5 will get you access to everything.
And we'll be covered in glitter.
Yes, and make sure to unlike, share, don't comment, unsubscribe, show to listen to shitty webcomics. Part two of the episode about Jim Turner's timestamps of the comic industry in 2017 and sort of the proto comicsgate era. Let's see about the let's
True. That's actually the thing. Is somebody showed what was it, yesterday or something? It's like, oh, somebody's making comic about comicsgate. It's the gate of the ultimate gate of gates.
Yeah, I think it was
And
supposed to be like a parody though. It was like someone who's like, oh, take this comicsgate, we'll show you by making fun
it's
of
a
yourself.
shitty fucking loser leftist,
Yeah,
embittered leftist crybaby bitch fit.
they shit their
It's
pants.
literally just two losers. It's two losers, but one person doesn't realize it.
Yeah, if one person doesn't realize that one of them is a loser, made by the loser. Anyways, so let's see. We left off May 2017. After Marvel reveals that Captain America is a lifelong Nazi, the reaction is so bad that they change course and promise that readers should wait for the happy ending of the story. June 2017, Marvel announces that they are bringing back their classic heroes in Marvel Legacy. Reaction was hostile because creative teams were not being changed.
Do you think that matters? Well, gee, do you think that would matter?
Yeah, August
Same
20.
people who hate all of your readers and all of your characters are going to be doing the same old characters now.
To be
Still,
honest, some of the readers. This was like, mangers had been eating comics lunch, so it's like you can almost not blame Marvel or DC or any of these cape shit creators for just being resentful of the comics that they have to make now, because it's like, well, these are original characters, they're doing good in the movies, but the comics suck.
It's kind of like the movie industry with Star Wars.
Mhm.
Because you're not allowed to make the next Star Wars. You just have to keep making Star Wars over and over again.
Yeah.
And you would eventually you get really tired of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but at the same time, also the customers is like, I can't even blame like hating them, because for just the longest time they've been like entitled and angry about anything. So when they get entitled and angry about Captain America being a Nazi, it no longer means anything. Like the normal people would be like, "Wow, this is terrible," but the normal people weren't reading these comics anyways and don't really care.
Normal people had already dropped this entire industry decades ago.
It's like I listened to a bad album, so I stopped listening to music.
Yeah. But I mean, it's even worse than that.
Which we actually unironically did in a way. I remember like the late 90s, after the shittiness of grunge gave way to rap rock. I was like, I don't know if I like this music shit anymore.
But we still listened to music, looked for music, and found music.
But definitely not through, the radio, like the normies do. But anyways, so August 2017, the comic retailers are getting really angry at Marvel. September 2017, the response to Captain America being a Nazi was so bad that the Marvel brought New York Times in to write an article spoiling the end of the series Secret Empire and desperately promising that Captain America was not going to be a Nazi anymore. October 2017, Marvel.
Yeah, so that's a great example of how the fucking media and entertainment look at Nazis. It's like, we hate Nazis. It's like, oh yeah, how much do you hate Nazis? Well, we're going to make every single story on planet Earth about them.
Yeah,
and it's like, you don't hate Nazis then.
Yeah, there's a weird Nazi obsession. And I think some of that really comes down to those sweet Hugo Boss uniforms.
Yeah, maybe it has something to do with that.
The fashion sense and that. There was actually really strong and studied iconography within the Nazi Party. Like Hitler and I think Goebbels really understood that it's like we have to have like this very striking iconography to catch on with the public, and it worked. They were right.
it worked a little too well. I mean, just look at how much the enemies of Nazism who hate Nazis they're just making love to their sales
Yeah,
figures.
they're still in love with the Nazis, and there can be other elements of that, like a secret, some kind of secret fetish element to fucking hating the Nazis, wanting to be tied up and whipped by the Nazis, or some kind of weird shit like that, which I personally disapprove of. But that's just my opinion.
It's very feminist.
Yeah, overtly
Which I
feminist,
definitely disapprove of that.
very feminist behavior to want to be treated badly intentionally. Anyways. October 2017, Marvel releases lenticular covers that don't work. One thing that doesn't get mentioned here by Jim Tooner in this timestamp for the lenticular covers is I remember explicitly Richard C. Meyer gushing about how much he loved the lenticular covers. For people who don't know or don't feel like Googling it, it's like sort of that thing where you turn it and it turns into another image. You tilt it at another angle. It like has another sort of a different frame or a different image.
That's the thing is, before any fucking comic book ever did it, I knew it from Slurpee cups.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the effect that they had on a bunch of Slurpee cups. Not always, but usually like the collectible ones from the 90s and 2000s. That's what the effect was called, as lenticular, where it's like sort of two images that you see when you see it from a different angle, it changes it, and they use that to either change an image entirely or to show a sort of almost animated frame. And again, it is a gimmick for a comic. It's a gimmick. It can be a fun little gimmick, but it is ultimately meaning fun and little do not amount to much. If you want to just
read a story, I mean, just imagine if you're trying to buy a regular book, because you really want to read the story, and they're like, "No, you have to pay this much amount of fucking bullshit extra money in order to be allowed to read the story, so you could get a special cover."
Yeah, that was another thing. October
special cover.
October 2017, Marvel releases lenticular covers that don't work. Basically, the covers worked in a way. They just didn't really do anything. They didn't matter. The rest of the timestamp says the retailers go into open rebellion at the New York Comic Con. So that's October 2017. But
I guess they're Nazis too.
The thing is that there's a whole other situation with the lenticular covers, where in order for a comic shop to receive one lenticular cover copy, they had to order like 25 copies of that same comic that just had the regular cover. And again, when it comes to collector stuff, I guess collectors like that sort of dumb shit. The thing is, when it comes to me, if I'm getting a comic that I actually want to keep, I don't want like a lenticular cover or fucking some kind of dumb special bullshit that just makes it take up more space in my short box or
none of that can be used as a selling point for me.
Yeah,
it's got a special cover. Great. Take the special cover, rip it off the fucking regular cover,
shove it up your ass.
In the sleeve, shove it up, roll it up real tight, and shove it up your ass.
Real tight. And it's like. Okay. Oh, it's got a lenticular cover, but the story in it still sucks. Well, who gives a shit?
It's still it's a story so bad it will offend your sensibilities, even if you're expecting cheesy kitsch. You're going to be disappointed and let down and incensed.
If you're expecting disposable gimmickry, you'll still be disappointed. The thing is, though, if you don't expect that, you might be a cape cuck.
I wonder if I can get
anything they shit in your face.
A special lenticular cover for the wrapping of my fucking Jax Link's teriyaki sticks.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what it's like. It's funny because Richard, the idiot that he is, would compare comics to a hot dog. It's like a hot dog is a disposable thing that you consume and it's gone when you consume it. A comic book is supposed to be a piece of art that tells a story. It is not meant to be a disposable thing that is consumed and discarded afterwards. So you can't really compare comic books to hot dog. But I know his point also is that, if if you're making comics, you're supposed to just be a hot dog vendor. You give the customer what you want. But the thing is that even Richard couldn't live up to that, where people would ask him, "Hey, can I get this?" and he would tell them no. So it's like, well, then you're failing even at your own metaphor of being
Can I
the
get a
hot dog vendor.
digital method of this? I hate fucking. I don't like floppies. I prefer digital. People telling him they prefer
Or at
digital,
least that they
and
would
you're
like a
telling
digital
them
copy so
that
that they could
nobody
receive it
likes
immediately.
digital. If you like digital, you don't really like comics.
Yeah, and
This
you're
fucking
basically telling an
asshole.
entire generation. You're telling millions of comic readers who read comics either over the web or digitally, like scanlation mangers, basically, who outnumber you 1,000 to 1 on a fucking bad
More
day.
than that, way more than that.
But also, it's like, yeah, what you were saying is that like fucking a lenticular cover on my Jack's links. It's like getting a hot dog that has a lenticular effect on the
It's
fucking
got a
thing that holds the
holographic
bun.
wrapper. The wrapper is holographic. So what? What do
Yeah.
I do with it? Well, you can keep it, and maybe it'll be worth something. It might be worth another $10 in 25 years.
Yeah, and it's like, but I'm buying a hot dog. I'm just
It's
buying a hot
covered
dog. I'm going
in
to eat the
grease
hot
and
dog. I don't give a
mustard.
shit what it comes in.
It's what am I going to do? I'll try and clean it. It's like, oh, you better buy a special kit, a
Yeah, now you have
hundred
to.
dollar kit to clean it.
Yeah, because it's
Otherwise,
got
it's
the
going to be
grooves in it.
fucking
It's going to be all.
disgusting.
Make sure to get. You have to put it in a plate so it doesn't get scratched up by your fingernails going across it to make the roof roof sound.
You're going to make sure to eat your hot dog off of a plate. Why'd I buy this wrapper then?
Yeah, why'd I buy this stupid lenticular holographic bullshit wrapper? Who gives a fuck now? And it's like, if it's the world's shittiest hot dog, too, who gives a fuck about the wrapper? Doesn't that just show the emptiness of Comicsgate? Of their stupid, childish, retard beliefs that they're like, the world's shittiest comics are going to be good if we buy them in a fancy wrapper. That is
I'm gonna
unironically what Comicsgate was
I'm
openly
gonna put
espousing as a
I'm going to
movement, as a
mail them in a
belief.
special box. I'm going to invent a new type of box. And it's like, oh yeah, what's this invention like? What did you do to invent it? Just use your fucking regular mailer from fucking the post office.
Yeah, that's
You
not a
didn't
joke,
invent
by the way.
anything then.
That's not a joke. That's unironically something else that Comicsgate
Yeah, no.
absolutely unironically did. Um,
I couldn't be stupid enough to make fun of them in that manner.
but the thing is that
I
they
couldn't
actually
lower
celebrated.
myself.
They celebrated this mindset of the world's shittiest hot dog in a fancy holographic wrapper. Comicsgate was actually proud of that. Is pride a sin? I don't know. You,
I hear that pride is a sin from stupid ass bitter babies,
but also at
little
the same time,
crybaby bitches
the
with
people who say
shaky
it can't
voices.
even agree whether they agree with that or not. Sometimes the same people will say the two completely opposite opinions about the same thing. It's very strange. Very odd, very unusual. Kind of weird, creepy weirdos in a way.
Creepy
Childful weirdos.
childless. They're so creepy. You might think that they don't have any children.
But it turns out they have bastard children, which I guess counts. Good job
I guess
having
that
bastard
makes them a
children.
genetic success.
Good job having bastard children that you can exploit for YouTube views. Great parenting there. It's always more important to have bastard children than to have none at all. Bastard children that you exploit for YouTube clicks. Um, anyways, so yeah, November 2017, or 2017, Dirtly. Bendis leaves Marvel, or Marvel gets sick of Bendis. Take your pick. And that one is hard to say. And there's something very strange about comics where getting the story straight is basically impossible. From people who are telling stories all the time, they're kind of used to lying. So you'll
Yeah,
always hear two
it's the
completely
ultimate
opposite
thing.
stories from both
It's
sides.
the ultimate problem of their fucking entire stupid ass movement.
And
These people are
media.
supposed to be storytellers. They can't even get a story straight, though. You
Yes.
would think that would be their first mission.
Especially when there's direct evidence proving them wrong in public, and then they just lie about it anyways to their own detriment. And the comic book fans will always believe the lie when the truth is there proven in front of them. That's another thing. Again, not our supposition or observation or fucking
You can't make this shit up.
Yeah, that's not our speculation or
I
anything.
wish
That's
I
something
could
that
be
they
that good of a
unironically
storyteller,
have done in practice many
except
times.
that it's also the saddest story. Nobody wants to read a story that's this depressing.
Yes, it's the world's most depressing story is about how the people around you are actually in angry revolt against objective proven facts. That's really the story of comicsgate. It's a story so depressing that making a comic about it would make normal people slit their wrists, but comic book fans would just be like, "But this is normal. This is okay. What's wrong with this?" Because they're gay. They actually talk like that too. That's not me doing a voice. That's actually how they talk. Um, anyways, so Bendis leaves Marvel, or Marvel gets sick of Bendis. It's really hard to say. Bendis was writing tons of stories for Marvel. He was a fucking real boon to
He was writing
Marvel.
a million stories, and they were all
He
garbage.
was really phoning them in, which you kind of have to do if you're writing 10 comics a month, you
And
know.
they're all Daredevil or Spider-Man.
Yeah, or some gay
It's
shit.
you're not allowed to write what you're not allowed to write your own ideas.
Mm.
It's always got to be. "Oh, it's not a Spider-Man story anymore, though," and it's like, what if I don't want to write a Spider-Man story?
I think Bendis wanted to do that though, and the thing is, I've heard people say
That's the
Bendis
worst
was a
thing.
good writer in the past, and that he's just spread himself thin. The thing
I'm
is, it's
doubting
like
that.
maybe for a comic book standards, maybe for American cape shit standards, but it's probably not that good. Because I've heard people say, "Oh, is comics at Marvel are still good though?" And it's like, no, no, they're not.
That's the one. That's what fucking Richard was doing. He was suing him and being like, "Buy his comics, though."
Well, not Bendis, but that was Mark Wade.
Mark Wayne. I confuse the
But
two
it's
because
this,
they're both
you know,
fat, balding nerd loser virgin.
it's the same difference these days, though. It really doesn't matter much. I mean,
No,
it's just a matter of like a plug-in name here at this
they're
point.
not
But
really
yeah,
people. They're
at the
not
same point,
actual
yeah, it was
people.
Mark Wade.
Age somebody got off a slide.
Anyways, November 2017, Axel Alonso is fired as overall editor of Marvel. A big part of why he was fired was because he didn't deliver a U turn away from SJW Comics fast enough. He was told to fix things like Captain America being a Nazi, and he kept going out trying to explain things. The moment when he's fired is the high watermark for Comicsgate. Um, Again, this is Jim
Yeah, they
Tuner's
were trying
timestamps, and I have to say I do remember this because
yes.
Comicsgate immediately celebrated a victory. They fucking got one editor replaced and said, "There, we
Very,
won."
they immediately threw a fucking shoulder out,
Yeah, fucking
jacking them off.
I still
And
remember the
had
video of Richard C. Meyer. Richard C. Meyer's voice was shaking with excitement about Thick Boy in charge, and I was like, "No, this isn't going to work." And guess what? As usual, we were right, and
right.
all
Wow,
of Comicsgate was wrong every
wow.
single time.
I barely knew anything about comics, and I just made that guess and ended up being right. And Richard has apparently been a fucking lifelong comic book fan, and he got that wrong.
He got yeah, every single lifelong fan of American comics got that wrong, and us people who don't even read cape shit, we got that completely right. What are the chances of that? Turns out the chances are guaranteed and always have been.
Well, I mean, we turned out to be right, so the chances were always 100%.
Yes. Anyways, but they always were going to be that. So, let's see. The moment when he's fired is a high watermark for Comicsgate. Marvel has admitted that they were right and has taken out the guy responsible for the worst of the 2014 to 2017 SJW comics at Marvel. At that particular moment, the CG critics looked at it as if they had history on their side, even though there were issues that were bigger than CG involved. They started getting serious attention, and then within 6 months, Comicsgate blew everything. Um, but also Marvel, for its part, shifted slowly from being political into being boring. This slowly undercut the YouTube comic reviews because they were gradually less overtly political books to review. The stuff Richard had built up his channel on reviews was slowly going away. And again, these are from Jim Tuner's timestamps. So, That's the end. That was the end of one post from Jim Tuner. There's several others, or at least a few others, that are also long. This is approaching 20 minutes, so we'll wrap up this episode and we'll continue on with the next one. Once again, if you're seeing this, there are episodes, there are extra parts of this that you can't watch yet unless you're donating to our Subscribe Star. Again, the link's below. Subscribestar.adult. The reason why our Subscribe Star is adult, I guess we were supposed to explain this in other
Do
places.
we need to explain this?
But
I guess.
But the thing is that the reason why it's adult is because just to hedge our bets, essentially, from getting reported for what people will claim is adult content when it's not.
Into an apoptosis.
Yeah. Anyways, but if you want to check out our videos, fucking just subscribe. It's $5. I wish it was $1, but we can't make it $1 anymore because of people in comicsgate false flagging our videos, or people in comicsgate funding other people, paying directly commissioning other people to false flag our videos, that kind of thing. So yeah, we have to keep them behind a paywall. These ones will be publicly posted in time, but if you want to see them ahead of the normie cattle curve, if you want to be part of the cool people who actually support good comics and real merit instead of empty hot air and bullshit merit that is by people with no talent and whiny people in a hug box, if you want to support the real good creators, again, not our opinion, other people's opinions of us, other great comics creators.
It's hard not to feel superior. It's hard to be humble.
It's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. But if you want to see the rest of the episodes before the normie cattle, join the Shitty Webcomics Patriots by going to our Subscribe Star and donating at least $5. Or you can donate to the $20 tier to the $20 Get Us to Stop Making Videos Entirely tier, which actually won't stop us from making anything. But it might support us better.
It might just, how would you know unless you try?
Yes. Anyways, so yeah, next episode, next part of this episode will be coming soon. Or if you are donating to our Subscribe Star, you get to watch the entire, like every video in this episode, every part. It's going to be all posted at once, basically. So those lucky people, they get to enjoy these wonderful videos. But we'll see you in the next part of this episode of Jim Tuner's 2017 time frame or timestamps of the comics industry and proto comicsgate. All right, continuing on with the episode about the Jim Tuner timeline from 2017 about the comics industry and proto comicsgate, the sort of beginning era of the inevitably doomed comicsgate movement. These are posts basically that Jim Tuner commented on our videos for, so I copied and pasted them because they had a lot of good the timeline. They're a good timeline of information, and it's good bullet points that we can also use for jumping off and derailing or rambling. Not really derailing, but for continuing on, adding some extra context and stuff. But the Jim Tuner's timeline itself is good. Is really good enough. All we have to do is read it. But us, we gotta add our extra.
Go that extra
context.
step.
Yes. We're doing it for you,
the people. The people.
Anyways, and again, if you want to encourage this or see all of the future parts of an episode, donate to our Subscribe Star. The link is below. You for $5 a month. You get access to all of our unlisted videos that we will never post publicly, but you can also get the early access to these episodes of the true story of Comicsgate. So continuing on with Jim Tuner's post,
Continuing to continue to pretend.
To continue to pretend that
That
cape shit will never end.
Will never end.
But anyways, this is a second post that Jim Tooner left, and so he sort of goes over. He mentions other stuff, new stuff, but he also sort of retreads a few timeline bullet points that were mentioned in previous parts of this episode, and I'll just read those again, because it's technically all different posts.
Quick sum up.
Yeah. So he says, this is the rest of the timeline from 2017 and some other related stuff. First, this is a list of the known people that were part of pre-comicsgate in 2017 and when they got involved. Teddy Spaghetti, a.k.a. Vox Day, a.k.a. Theodore Beale, and John Delarose are not included because while they were involved, they really have a separate history. So, Doug Ernst, 2016 or before, Captain Frugal, 28th of January 2017, which I believe is just either his first video or his first video about comics. England Teen, I think his channel's called I Love Comics, March 2017 and before. Captain Cummings very early, around 2017, but he keeps deleting his channel, so it's hard to actually have a proper beginning now. Diversity in Comics, a.k.a. Richard C. Meyer, 15th of April, 2017.
A.k.a. Comics Matter with ya boy Zach.
Ya cuck Zach. Mim Headroom, June 2017. Just Some Guy, 31st of July 2017. Crumple Point, 1st of August 2017. I don't know why these are the British formatting of dates, but whatever. Is that a little hint about Jim Tooner? Who cares? Weaponized nerd. Personally, I think that Jim Tooner's doing that intentionally to throw people off. Very clever. Clever gull. Anyways. Weaponized Nerd Rage, 15th of August 2017. Nurkish, August 2017. That's for his YouTube channel. I remember Nurkish actually from Tumblr, of all things, from around 2016 to 2017 also, but I think more around 2016. And then Cecil, aka Dick and Comics, 21st of September 2017. And again, some of these people may have involvement, and of course, this isn't mentioning us who have involvement going back before this, but the thing is that we don't have any actual involvement with the movement directly. We were always outsiders to the fandom, and therefore the sort of inherently gate-kept out of anything that could be Comicsgate.
Well, that's actually one of the things that it still kind of surprises me to look back on, is the fact that I was absolutely in that exact demographic for comic books. We're young in the fucking 90s. I watched the X-Men cartoon, the Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, Batman the Animated Series was just about my favorite fucking thing when that started airing. I loved pretty much every episode of that. I was like, oh, this is the best.
It's a legitimately great show too. So it's nice that I can be like, we had better cartoons when I was a kid, and I can absolutely mean that because Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, and it's not merely nostalgia either. It was legitimately well made, well written.
I know what shows I used to like that actually ended up sucking. We got some good shows. It's just that today is a better era for delivering the shows.
Yeah, I today it's like I could go watch, if I wanted to get into Batman the Animated Series, it's like just find where it's streamed and click it, or pirate it and click, and it's just like, oh, that's great. But yeah, we're actually probably the best judges in the history of the human race of being able to judge our own nostalgia objectively.
Yeah, knowing what's still good and what isn't.
Whereas we used to go back constantly and judge things that we used to like and be like, okay, this isn't as good for this reason or this reason, or, I like this more as a kid because it's easier to.
Well, I mean, that's really also the thing is kids, especially for me, like cartoons. I like to sit down and watch cartoons. And again, comic books should have been the fucking perfect thing, but no, I never read comic books as a kid.
Well, no, we read a few and they were terrible. And
They
they're
weren't
the
mine.
big Marvel tentpole
I don't
comics.
know whose comics they were, but they sure as shit weren't my comics.
Yeah, there were other people's
I didn't
comics who
read
would read them and be like, "Ugh, what the fuck is this
I remember not
shit?"
liking them. Yes, that was exactly the thing. Is like, oh, what the fuck? It was like,
Both
oh, it's
Marvel and DC.
you know, and it's just like, okay, it's just a bunch of talking and nothing happens, and I don't know what the fuck they're talking about because I didn't read the fucking previous 20 issues.
But we actually did do a video a long time ago about that too, which
You'll be
is
covered in this
that's
shit.
on the old SWC Revived. Oh yeah, that's right. Comicsgate false flagged that channel and got it deleted. If I could say illegally, if that was a crime, I would say illegally. But so far, it's false flagging people is not a crime. It's not actually illegal. It's just false flagging. It's just bitch made inherently.
It's just
The
gay.
movement
Well,
itself inherently is bitch made.
buying is fucking illegal.
The comic book
There you
fandom is
go.
inherently bitch made as a people, as a collective, but also as individuals.
As we all remember from the fucking 10 suggestions.
Yeah, stealing is not cool. Lying, I guess, is okay. Moses came down from the mountain with that stuff that said lying is a eh.
Moses came down from the mountain and started lying. Moses came down from the mountain and got kicked out of a country.
Just fucking. How do you even do that? 109, they say. Anyways,
That was actually the thing. Is somebody was talking yesterday, I think, about like how Israel is going to start ejecting Israelis who don't fucking wear masks or get the fucking flu shot or whatever the fuck.
so now they're getting.
It's going to be 110 countries
now-
at this point. And it's their
It's
own
110 now, and the 110th is their own. How does
man.
this happen?
That is so shameful.
It's funny how that can just be summed up into two words. 100. Well, that's not two words, but like a number.
A single word, a single number.
But just 109 countries. It just like the meme. That's truly memery.
Meme magic.
Speaking of memery, speaking of meme magic, which we've not only practiced but have used to destroy people forever with.
Fuck.
The continued timeline, 29th of July 2017. So if you heard the previous parts of this episode, you realize this is backtracking to from the end of 2017 to the middle of it again. But this does have more stuff, and again, like I said, it will retread a few things that were mentioned in the previous parts of this episode. But 29th of July 2017, Heather Antos gets 2 or 3 snarky responses to her Milkshake Girls photo, and she goes off the deep end. Rich Johnston of Bleeding Cool writes a story claiming that the snarky responses are rape threats, even though there are no threats at all, rape or otherwise, in the responses. So basically, she pulled a Tug or Yellow Umbrella or That Umbrella Guy by making up fake threats that never existed and getting everyone. But in that case, comicsgate jumped on the lie and believed the lie and pushed a lie that Umbrella Guy pushed. Whereas in this case, Heather Antos lied, and then the SJW media jumped on it to promote it. And maybe you can say that's where Comicsgate got the justification, where they said, well, the SJWs do it, so we should do it too. And it's like, well, they want to rape kids too. Are you going to do that? Oh, wait. Maybe they are going to do that. Maybe Comicsgate will do that, or already has.
Has Comicsgate already raped children?
Perhaps. That part is just speculation. As we said, we will.
I can't say for sure. You'll have to decide it for
You'll have to
yourself.
decide. Yeah, we will disclaim all things that are speculation or opinion up front. And that one is speculation or opinion. Well, it's not really an opinion. It's. I don't even necessarily think that.
My
It's
opinion
just
is that
speculation.
I disapprove of child molestation.
Definitely against that sort of thing.
I'm
Actually
very
raping for real life IRL meat space kids is definitely objectively immoral. That part's not really so much my
very
opinion.
cringe.
It's not based at all. In fact, no, it's blue pilled, I guess you could say,
It's totally blue pilled.
which is for sure bad because everyone thinks it. Everyone thinks blue pill is bad when it's a metaphor from a gay overrated movie by trannies. But anyways,
Anyway.
30th of July, 2017, Heather Antos gets a huge number of people in comics to jump in to defend her. Again, Tug did the same thing later. Thing is, a lot of people in Comicsgate did that before and after. It's just a normal thing that fans and nerds do naturally. Is a lot of brigading, hug boxing, that sort of thing. And we documented that at the absolute earliest. We used to document that in general in webcomics. Back in the around 2013, 2014, that kind of thing, before Gamergate even. Anyways, so yeah, Heather Antos got a lot of people in comics to jump in to defend her and creates a large amount of publicity for herself personally, which again, her defenders virtue signal each other for days over what amounts to an insignificant incident. This is, again, in a way, Jim Tooner also reiterating a very common objective truth about Comicsgate is that Comicsgate would essentially platform and validate anyone they complained about. So they would complain about someone, and that person would instantly be proclaimed a hero. And instead of Comicsgate doing anything to undo that, they would accidentally feed into it. August 2017, Richard gets doxxed. Date approximate. I couldn't find an absolute date when this happens, but his real name and work history was shared out in public. Also, August 2017, Marvel writer Dan Slott blocks Captain Cummings and Doug Ernst temporarily on Twitter, which, to be honest, I consider that insignificant. A lot of them consider it like, oh, you're blocking the customers, and it's like you don't have. Here's the thing that Comicsgate was always wrong about: you as a fan or a customer don't have the entitlement to fucking unfettered access to communication with somebody, especially just so you can bitch at them. You really don't have that. Nobody should have that entitlement. Anyone should be free to block anyone for any reason or no reason. The thing is, even as I say that, I've never blocked anyone. We've never blocked anyone or banned anyone except for people who were demonstrably dangerously mentally ill. And
I've never blocked anyone. That's the thing is, I've never blocked anyone that I've been accused of blocking people that I didn't block.
Yeah, that you've never blocked. Yeah, in fact, that happened recently, which is very weird. But there are people who were incapable of communication, who were fucking blabbing constantly and just spamming and having nothing to say, and being like, okay, you need to have something to say now if you're going to talk. And then they would get mad, and it's like, okay, you're out of here then. We would have to. We've never banned anyone in our lives, and we were forced to have to ban people because they were completely mentally unstable, just annihilated, fucking mentally annihilated and broken people.
Anally annihilated.
August 2017. Marvel sales for the month are supposedly down 25% year over year. 9th of September 2017, Nick Spencer does a tweet saying not to listen to YouTube idiots about the state of comics. 13th of September 2017, Kwanzaa Osajefo calls out Richard as racist, sexist, homophobic on Twitter, which is
vitriophobic.
Yeah, that's something that we're more used to than anyone in Comicsgate from even before that. So when people are like, oh, they're starting to cause it, it's like, yeah, people said that about us for years before that, for the same bullshit reasons that basically we proved them wrong or disagreed in public. That's really all it boils down to. But of course, Comicsgate had a fucking conniption and turned that into hours and hours of low IQ content for their YouTube videos, naturally, so it sort of feeds into it. They benefit. Comicsgate always benefited massively from anything SJWs would say, the same way SJWs would benefit massively from the attention they got from people in Comicsgate or Richard or his fan base of queers.
Worse.
15th of September 2017, Richard creates Big Trouble for IDW. G.I. Joe writer Aubrey Sitterson over dumb 9/11 comments that Sitterson made. This was an important event because it mobilized all sorts of idiots in mainstream comics to care about Richard, whether they were for him or against him. Most being against him, of course, even though Aubrey Sitterson was, of course, not only stupid but not a good writer. But then again, He's a writer for comic books. Of course, he's not a good writer. Richard's not a good writer. Richard's not even close to being a middling or mediocre writer. All of them are terrible. Again, objectively, that's not my observation or my opinion. Sitterson turned into a victim rather than a nobody and an idiot. So in a way, that of course, just platformed Aubrey Sitterson and validated him further. And here it says mod one note. That's me. So I put an extra note here. This already shows how Richard's fan base was already attempting to pull start a comicsgate into happening by turning every single SJW statement and event into the impetus for a comicsgate. But in the long run, all the desperation did was embolden SJWs into being victims while forming a groupthink cult around Richard's fan base. So anyone who said to ignore SJW statements and to stop legitimizing SJWs was blown off as somehow being an SJW or whatever. 20th of September 2017, Ron Mars, creator, urges that Richard be mass reported to Twitter to drive him off the platform. And then mod one note again, most of these same SJWs did this to us throughout the early to mid 2010s, as previously shown, where people from several people from Marvel and DC and Image and even comics news blog Comics Alliance publicly colluded on Twitter to mass flag our blog just for making fun of Kate Leth, as many SWC readers will vividly remember, as it ended in 2015 when Kate Leth personally contacted somebody from Tumblr staff to have our blog deleted as a personal favor, which was again done completely in public on Twitter, where people were able to just straight up screen cap it. At that time, nobody who went on to be in comicsgate had anything to say about this event, which is very important to notice that these exact same people in the comics industry were openly admitting to colluding to censoring and deplatforming other people in comics, us specifically, and nobody who went on to be in comicsgate had anything to say about this or in any way supported us or even supported the SJWs. They just completely fucking memory holded or had nothing to do with it or no acknowledgement of it, which is extremely suspicious for the entire movement of Comicsgate. As far as them saying, like when you see anyone in Comicsgate claiming to support free speech or to be against cancel culture, if they really were, they would have been involved in that. They would have spoken up about that. And the only people who spoke up about it were just other people who had been following us in a kind of a minor way. In a few cases, some of them spoke up about it more, but again, everyone in Comicsgate had nothing to say about it, which showed that Comicsgate really had no principles or morals. Because again, it was pretty public. It was out in the open, and none of those people had anything to say about it, because the fact is they didn't really ever care about deplatforming or censorship. They just wanted the entitlement to whine about cape shit. And again, all that had already been proven in many other situations and videos and cases and even other people's statements. Even people from Comicsgate admitted that, where it's like, yeah, Comicsgate wasn't really about anything, and it certainly didn't promote or support freedom of speech or even better comics, as we've gone into in the previous episodes of this.
A lot of people tend to be like, I'm for freedom of speech, except...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they actually Ethan Van Sciver himself actually said, I'm for freedom of speech, but... And Liam Gray said the same thing. Not only did Liam Gray say that, but when Liam Gray said that, Ethan Van Sciver completely took his side and supported him.
But wait, I heard that fucking Ethan Van Sciver hates him now.
Yeah, Ethan Van... And this is a completely later situation, unrelated to any of this. But Ethan Van Sciver only decided to be against Liam Gray after evidence, like solid paper trail evidence, came showing like Liam Gray, or from Ethan Van Sciver's bank account to Liam Gray, basically showing that Ethan Van Sciver directly was funding and supporting Liam Gray monetarily, providing aid and succor, as you could say,
Suck.
succor. Um, but yeah, that's again, that's where that comes from. As soon as Ethan Van Sciver started saying, it's Liam Gray, this guy's bad. It was he only did that after evidence was directly posted, like it had already been public, but it had been compiled and posted in a way that was completely undeniable that Ethan Van Sciver had funded and directly paid Liam Gray, who was, false flagging and openly in support of deplatforming and, in fact, just openly admitting to false flagging and saying that he would keep doing it. And Ethan Van Sciver said he would support that.
Sounds like a real fair weather friend.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like he's got a lot of loyalty. I personally wouldn't trust the guy. Either
That's
one of
something
them.
that we've never had to worry about and never will.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that we don't really have that problem. Other people have. It's weird how
We'll
often
never
other
have
people
to
have this
worry
problem.
about that. We will never have to worry about that with anyone, especially with fucking Doug TenNapel.
Yeah, or fucking even Tim and Mark, to be honest.
But especially Doug TenNapel. It's not like Doug TenNapel's ever going to go on anyone else's show and we'll be like, oh no, he went on somebody else's show. Oh, it's over for us. Nope, not a big deal.
We don't do that with anyone else. It's like I don't give a shit if somebody else is like, oh, they went on a show with somebody. It's like I don't give a shit.
It's like they're Howard Stern or something.
But again, that's a whole other
blacklist you.
That's an entire other topic, and all that topic is just proof of our objectively superior morality. But that's already been proven by, like, our entire previous channel showed how we're morally superior to every single person who's ever been involved in comicsgate. Anyways, here's another note that I added. Another important aside. Unlike us, the SJW's mass flagging is identical behavior to Comicsgate themselves, especially displayed later, most recently in 2019 and 2020, when Comicsgate mass reported our Twitter and YouTube accounts, where, again, we have, like, the screen caps and all that of the SJWs and Kate Leth's friends and stuff like that, openly admitting to mass false flagging our comics review blog that in no way targeted anyone ever. It just simply posted critical analysis and mockery, of course, which sometimes is the same thing, but yeah,
which could not handle.
Yeah, people who worked for Marvel, for DC, for Image, either at the time or in the future went on to do that. The thing is that when they did that, we didn't then platform them. We just said, here, they're admitting to doing it. What are any of you going to do about it? And no one did anything.
We actually ended up cutting out, I'm sure, a lot of future comic skaters from our ranks as they were just spamming us with her tweets.
Yeah.
Just mass spamming us. Did you see what she tweeted just now? I don't care.
Yeah, that's another topic we've covered a lot of times in previous videos, but it's always worth bringing up, is that we started attracting a lot of people who became obsessed with Kate Leth, and we started just, like, we wouldn't ban or block them, but they would submit posts to us, and we would just delete them. We're like, here, make your own blog about Kate Leth. We don't give a shit about. We're not going to platform. We're not going to turn our blog into a platform for her. However, Comicsgate did this exact thing with every SJW creator they have ever complained about, because every single one of them would go on to make like hundreds of hours of videos about just one SJW comic creator doing one thing. Every single one of these people in Comicsgate would do tons of videos, and all it would do is platform them and give them attention and give them legitimacy. And people would say, oh, the Comicsgate people are pissed off about them. They must be doing something right. And Comicsgate would do nothing about that. They would say, okay, let's stop talking about this. Instead, they would keep obsessing. like the obsessed weirdos that they always have been, because all comic book nerds always have been obsessed weirdos. They're creepy people. They're weirdo people, and there's nothing they will ever be able to do to stop being that. They're like that by nature, possibly genetically, sort of like an Untermensch
Kind of like why
situation.
they want or fucking buy comics.
Yeah, it doesn't really make whole hell of a lot of sense. But the same way that the SJWs mass flagged us, comicsgate itself mass flagged us a few years later in 2019 and 2020, when they were mass reporting not only our Twitter accounts but especially our YouTube accounts. And not just, and the thing is, it's also very important to point out it wasn't just a minority in comicsgate. The entire movement supported the mass flagging,
None of
collectively
them
and
spoke out
individually.
against it. Many of them spoke out in favor of it. But
Yes,
most especially
including
is
Ethan.
no one fucking, no one was just like, oh, this is wrong. You shouldn't do this. Nobody stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, nobody in Comicsgate, like in 2019, nobody in Comicsgate spoke up to be like, "Hey, you're lying. Hey, other people in Comicsgate, you're lying about this. You're fucking supporting false flagging and deplatforming of this." Instead, they were like, "Ugh, yeah, go after the SJWs, like again, falsely accusing us of being SJWs when we were against SJWs before any of
That's
them
also
ever
how you
were."
could tell that they were fucking complicit in this.
Yeah, they're
Is that
complicit
they
in
knew we
lying.
weren't. They knew we weren't the SJWs, and we were just trying to hold these people accountable for their mistakes, which is it's exactly what you should want. If you want your movement to be successful, you should see the grifters who are lying in wait, trying to get your money, and you should be thankful to the people who are calling them out.
Yeah, you should be fucking hitting your knees and praising us. Or, you know what? Donate to us for at least being the only ones willing to tell you the truth. Instead, you in Comicsgate want to be lied to, and you've already proven that through your actions. It's too late for you to say that you're not for that. It's also too late to say, if for anyone in Comicsgate, it's too late for you to say that you're against deplatforming or cancel culture or false flagging when you've already supported all of those things by action. Not even just words. Your words are empty and hollow. Your actions are the only things that show what you really think, and your actions proved that you're in favor. All of you in Comicsgate were in favor of cancel culture and deplatforming and false flagging.
They engage in it.
Usury. So,
Personally, I disapprove.
anyways, continuing on though with the Jim Tuner part of the not timestamps but a timeline. 21st of September 2017, John Delarose releases material from Facebook showing a private discussion where B. Claymore talks about trying to goad Richard into a fight at the New York Comic Con. B. Claymore is another total idiot, but his comments were taken as meaning a whole set of creators belonging to that Facebook group were planning to get Richard. 21st of September 2017, same day, apparently. Mark Waid requests that anyone who sees Richard C. Meyer at the Baltimore Comic Con inform him immediately so that Waid could lessen, as in reduce, the harassment of women in comics. This is interpreted, especially given Wade's history of violence and tantrums, as a threat, but Wade afterward denies that it was. Not that Wade is a physical threat to anyone, anyways. Again, this is something that we had been mocking before. Comicsgate, the whole, reducing the harassment of women in comics. That's something that Comicsgate, like, jumped on and acted like they invented making fun of that when, pretty much, in fact, sometimes word for word or verbatim, the Comicsgate response to that was identical to what we had said back in the shitty webcomics days. It was very, very strange, very suspicious, you could say. But to the point, I don't think that was intentional. I think it was a coincidence because a lot of what we had said had just sort of filtered into the public consciousness by that point. It was years later. It was years after we had like fucking sort of been on the forefront of that.
Somebody had taken it from us.
Well, it's sort of like how some people in when Gamergate kicked off, there had been a few people like including Razorfist and I think Sargon and a few others who had just already been criticizing or going after feminism, but also the relation to games and corruption with games news and that sort of thing. That same way, like me and you, especially my brother, basically more than me even, had already been like neck deep in what would eventually come to be the sort of counter feminist not not the narrative, but the I don't want to say zeitgeist either because that's kind of fruity, but the whole cultural acceptance or awareness of feminism having gone completely fucking insane. That a lot of that's only really recently happening. My brother and me had been like on the forefront of that years and years ago in advance.
I was saying it before I heard of any of these other people.
Yeah. So that's the thing when a lot of people are like making fun of Mark Wade for being like, oh, fucking protecting the woman. The whole protecting the woman that came mostly from stuff that my brother was following years before a lot of people in Comicsgate acted like they were fucking somehow the meme. Like a lot of those memes came from places where my brother was years in advance. So yeah, again, Comicsgate essentially was just so behind in the back of our wake that they were in clear water again. Um, and again, that's a very regular occurrence with most of the stuff that Comicsgate claims to support. And the thing is that again, their words are completely empty, and it's only their actual deeds which show that they were just parroting essentially what we had said years earlier. In fact,
Their
they're
words are as empty as their
yes.
skulls.
There are also many specific occurrences of Richard C. Meyer doing videos that were like almost verbatim repeats of things we had said in on the Shitty Webcomics blog, years prior. So, and to the point where I was finding it suspicious, but I'm still very willing to believe it's a coincidence because, again, it's just sort of following the cultural trend. Many years late, we've seen that a lot where we'll be on the forefront or the ahead of the cultural trend, and then years later, it catches other people catch up to it and start saying a lot of the same things that we had said. Um, so let's see. Anyways, um, yeah, just 23rd of September 2017, Cecil, who is still to this day a complete nobody, does his first anti-SJW comics video. By complete nobody, by the way, he has a following just because of the cult, because of the hug box. It's not from any actual merit or anything he has to say. Because again, all he's saying is just he's just parroting stuff that other people have said first. Sometimes in most cases, other people in Comicsgate said it first, so he parrots it. But the other people in Comicsgate were saying it only years after we had said most of it. The thing is that, and again, it's very much worth pointing out, is that we said it, but then we also lived it. We put our money where our mouth is. Our actions actually backed up what we say. Comicsgate would say it, and then through their actions would completely do the opposite. They would betray everything they say. They would show that what they were saying was just hot air, and they didn't basically have the backbone to back any of it up. They would do the opposite. They would say one thing and do the opposite. Not just commonly, but pretty much in every single occurrence, 100% or 99.999, whatever, rounded up to the nearest billionth, basically rounds up to 100%.
Pretty much. And we directly experienced that,
Yes.
where not just
we basically proved that. We proved that Comicsgate as a movement and as a people and individually and as a collective is corrupt. The movement, the beliefs, the actions of Comicsgate is inherently corrupt. We are basically the biggest piece of evidence of that. Anyways,
just also we clearly we're living rent free in their heads.
Yes.
I mean, when they're even copying,
We're living rent free in their nightmares.
comics,
They're afraid.
that they fucking lose it.
Yeah, they're actually
because it's true.
other people in Comicsgate have noticed and told us in private that they're afraid to mention us. In most cases, mostly because the few times that they did, people come to us, like the Comicsgate will come to us to be like, "Who are these guys saying?" And then we'll say something that they realize they didn't want to hear, like fucking, about Ethan, doxing his own
I
customers
mean,
or something.
why else would you try and silence somebody?
The story of that's much longer, of course.
First off, you've heard of the Streisand effect.
Yes.
Everyone's heard of the Streisand effect at this point.
We are proof that Comicsgate doesn't understand the Streisand effect because they fucking keep feeding into it and destroying their own movement and their own beliefs and values.
They think that just by not mentioning us, that somehow we'll just go away. They'll keep having a career and nothing will go wrong. They could just keep stealing from people.
Yeah, Liam Gray thought that, and Ethan Van Sciver thought that, and you see what happened to them. Here's the thing: you see what happened to them. They're also invisible effects that you can't see yet. That we're warning everyone will happen. That nobody believes until it happens. Which
it hasn't even.
There's already been many examples of that in the past, where we said this is going to happen, then it happens, and other comics pros who were in Comicsgate have come to us and be like, "Wow, you guys called this years in advance, and you were completely right." It's like, yeah, we were.
You're right.
Again, it's why other people say should have listened to Shitty Webcomics. But anyways, continue. Well, you know what? I'll pick this up from.
We'll leave off at should have listened to Shitty Webcomics.
Yes, because it's true. So yeah, again, if you want to support us though, fucking subscribestar.adult, because we're a little too spicy for regular. You don't want to take. We just basically don't want to take the chance of somebody like, "Oh, this is very offensive. It's not appropriate for regular."
I already know it's going to hurt feelings.
Yes.
We already know feelings will be hurt.
Yeah, so if you want to support us, or if you want to see the hidden videos or all the rest of these episodes, the $5 pay-per-pig tier on Subscribestar will get you access to all of our hidden videos, including the ones we will never post. And also, you'll be supporting the only actual honest people who were ever had any involvement, even tangentially, in Comicsgate, which is us, and also the first people to be honest about it, which is not my opinion, it's the opinion of other people in Comicsgate. So, go check that out, and unlike, share, don't comment, unsubscribe, and should have listened to Shitty Webcomics. Continuing off with, I don't know, part 8 or 9 or a billion of just this one episode.
Endless mode. We're going into endless mode.
Yes. But also we're keeping these, I want to say we're keeping these videos short, but like 40 minutes isn't really short. I want to keep them 20 minutes to a half hour, but we're going a little over, because
we go as long as we want. But I want to chop this up.
We're going longer in most of these videos because we're providing a ton of extra context around the situation of these timestamps, and these timestamps are the Jim Tuner timestamps.
Either mentioned or reiterated.
Mm-hmm.
I already know that.
These aren't timestamps. It's a timeline of around 2017, the comics industry, and sort of the beginning of Comicsgate. So where we left off, 23rd of September 2017, Cecil does his first anti-SJW comics video. It's another attempt.
Remember, the day I'll always remember.
It's another attempt by someone to copy what Richard is doing. Even his name was a copy off of Richard's, where diversity in comics became diversity, inclusion, compassion, and kindness in comics. A very cheesy, a very cheesy try hard joke that nobody really found it funny. Like, I remember Richard saying he didn't like the character. He didn't like characters. He didn't like Cecil.
Why is he calling himself ya boy Zach?
Yeah, that's in a way That's just Richard's way of trying to be a character and also trying to be like he's a 90s kid when he's really like a fucking 40-year-old gay,
He's 50 at
retarded
that point.
ape cuck.
He's older than 40.
Raising bastard children. Oh wait, he's not even really raising them. The
Raising
moms have custody.
fucking half dual race bastard children, dual nationality.
So, do you know how many congressmen have dual nationality? What?
His
Anyways,
kids aren't even congressmen.
yeah, what's going on with that? I don't know what's going on with that. Anyways, and one thing that doesn't really get mentioned is, and I never cared that much or had a problem with it, but the way Richard would hide behind his children's mixed ethnicities, I always thought was kind of cucked and paused
He
and
was
cowardly.
constantly mentioning my Muslim daughter. My daughter is Muslim.
It's like
It's like
Muslim's not a race, though; it's a religion.
Muslim's not
So
a race, but also what does this have to do? How does this justify your viewpoints on comics? Why
yeah,
does this matter?
yeah. Why does this make you right, and why would it make SJWs wrong? The thing is, I'm not saying that you're not right, but how does that make you right? It's the same way
It's not
SJWs would
really an
hide behind their
argument.
ethnicity. I
It's
always thought it
yeah.
was really just annoying and gay.
Why is he playing identity politics
Yeah.
like he's kind of fucking the fucking one of those Turning Point USA people?
Yeah, exactly. How does anal sex help us win the culture war? It's a good question, I guess.
And
I
that's
guess.
exactly what fucking that's exactly who Richard is.
Yeah,
He's a,
he's
that's
basically, yeah,
exactly
just the Turning Point USA Charlie Kirk of comics, essentially.
yes. That's exactly who he is. Why would anyone support that? I don't support that personally.
Yeah,
I'm
in a
not a
way, it's like they're coming in and trying to co-opt. That's really the problem. I have to admit I had this problem. I guess you could say it's a bias in a way, but it's an objective thing. It's not really a bias because it's based off of the facts. Is that I always felt that Comicsgate, not just felt, it was true that Comicsgate was essentially trying to not just copy off of us, but like to come in later and sort of pretend at being us after it was like so many years had passed and had proven that these people didn't really care about, whatever they want to call it, fighting the culture war or in any way making any difference to comics. They clearly didn't want to make a difference to comics because if they did, they would have done it years in advance with something clever or creative
fan.
instead
They
of
claim to be the
just
fans.
wanting to revert to the 90s, to a
They're the
dead
ones
era.
who said that they were fan. Yeah, exactly. They were the ones who said that they were the original fans. We're the original fans, not those other people.
And it's
And
like,
it's like,
fuck
why'd you
fandoms,
allow
though.
this? Then?
Fuck fandoms. Forever. Fandoms
I
are
don't mind
useless.
either way. No, I don't mind either way. Why'd you allow this? If
Yeah.
you're the fan base,
Yeah, you're the fans and you just sat there. Why did you do that, Comicsgate? And why do you then support the problem? You continue to directly support the problem. Even the problem you claim is the problem, you support it. But even then, the aspect of the problem that you're not willing to admit to. But yeah, I always thought there was something very wrong with Comicsgate where they were essentially coming in late and trying to ape us, to imitate us, but poorly. And I thought that's not good because this isn't going to help. That's not in any way supportive. That's not going to help comics in any way, the industry or the medium, which I felt the medium was more important than the industry, anyways. But to Comicsgate, the industry was actually more important than the medium because they wanted merely the industry to revert, which would not solve anything and very obviously would never solve anything. But anyways, yeah, so this is why we get stuff like Cecil trying to do a goofy imitation of diversity in comics, and to the point where even other people in Comicsgate thought it was cringe. And or just, in no way benefit anyone, but Ethan found out that he could use Cecil as a yes man by like promising to advance some sort of YouTuber career, which did work because the cult was there and willing to believe anything their Caesar would say. But that's a later story for Comicsgate. That is essentially, though, why comicsgate was destined to fail, though, was because they had a Caesar that they would worship and believe anything he said,
They called
especially when
him
it was bullshit,
Caesar, and then he's like, they're the ones calling me Caesar, and it's like,
which was
well
a
then,
lie, too.
I got a perfect solution to that. Tell them to shut the fuck up.
Yes, tell them, hey, don't do that. Fucking, if you're gonna be like that, just unsubscribe from me now. Ethan never had the balls to tell anyone to unsubscribe, though, because like we're trying to build a customer base, and it's like, well, then you can't really build a customer base of honest people if you're not willing to get rid of the dishonest people, and if you're not
Again, look
willing
at
to do
what we
that,
did.
you're not really a person with any
I think we
beliefs.
mentioned that in the previous video.
Yes.
Is fucking we had these people coming to our channel and being like, oh, did you see what Caitlin said? Did you see what she tweeted? And our response was always, I don't give a shit what she tweeted. Fuck off.
Or they would take screen caps of her Twitter feed constantly, especially when she had nothing interesting to say, when it was nothing new or fucking unique or anything. And we would just delete them and say, we're not going to be a platform for the SJW opinion or for their personalities or people. They don't deserve that much attention. And the funny thing is that then when they would do something embarrassing, these stupid screen cap people would be like, "Oh, well, they don't want me to screen cap anything, so I guess I won't." When she was like admitting to cheating on fucking her, or to when she admitted to fucking a married man who died of cancer and all that kind of stuff.
It just goes to show you have to cut those people out.
Yes. They're not worth it. And the thing is, Comicsgate could never do that. They never had the balls because, mostly because they weren't actually building a customer base. That's another lie by Comicsgate. What was really happening, and again, people who know Ethan Van Sciver privately and personally were able to confirm this to us. Ethan Van Sciver didn't care about building a customer base. He's an incredibly insecure person who wants to feel validated by fandom. And that's it. That's the only reason why I do that. That's why he had like mentally ill people who were doxing people for him, and he was not only supporting them vocally, but funding them monetarily, which is again not only part of the reason why Comicsgate collapsed, but why Comicsgate as a movement was for corrupt and morally incorrect people, for morally bad people. It is very childish to say evil, but morally incorrect and morally bad people it's an objective analysis. It's not our opinion. It's even Christians agreed with us that it's like, yeah, they are evil. We never said evil. They would say, yeah, it basically morally incorrect can be equated to simply the word evil. And it's like, as much as that can apply, yeah, sure.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. And again, it's other people's viewpoints, opinions, or objective observations that they have acknowledged.
Point. You want to fucking, if you want to legitimately argue against that, then tell me. Come to the fucking debate.
Yeah, show up at all.
Bring an argument.
Yeah, and that's something we've challenged Comicsgate to do for years. Since 2017, especially 2018, we have challenged every single person in Comicsgate to bring an argument, one at all.
I'm not asking for a debate either, because there's no reason for a debate to occur.
Internet debates are really gay.
To start, first off, debates. You can't debate with somebody who doesn't argue in good faith to begin with, yes. Which we've already heard.
Which actually, that's the thing, is that the first and last Comicsgate debate, they lost. It was with Ethan Van Sciver, and he came in bad faith and lost the argument anyways. When I was able unintentionally to basically play him into outright contradicting himself in the time span of 5 seconds. Once he contradicted himself, argument over, he loses. And there's no arguing against that. There is no fucking cope for that. It's just fucking, that's the end. We won and he lost. There is no other way. There's no other way to see it except to go into denial and say, no, actually, Ethan won the argument because more people agreed with him. That is not how. That's not actually what an
That's
argument means. That's
that
what
is
Comicsgate
absolutely
unironically
arguing in
thinks.
bad faith too. That is like the
Yes.
definition of arguing in bad faith.
Yeah, and that is how Comicsgate has always argued in bad faith and therefore lost the argument. And in fact, hate to put it this way, was brutally raped by us. Every single person, every single supporter on Comicsgate was brutally, violently raped digitally over the internet. Their
Rape.
internet boy pussy was completely prolapsed by our throbbing internet cocks. And there's really just no other way around it. And that's not our opinion either. Other people who were in Comicsgate came to us and were like, "Yeah, Ethan lost that one." So again, it's not our observation.
I
Even
mean,
people who
even
don't
then,
like
it's
us, or
like,
people who disagreed with us, or people who were in the movement, were forced to
I'll
admit.
freely ask these people, go ahead, listen to the opposition, make the judgment for yourself. If you actually listen to their lies and decide that you would rather listen to their lies than our truth, by all means, go away.
Yes, please, please leave. This isn't a joke. I'm not being serious. I'm not
Stop
trying.
laughing. Stop smiling.
Stop smiling. Very clever.
Stop
Very
laughing.
clever.
It isn't funny.
But it will not stop anything. Anyways, all of this stuff is previously established. We've talked about this in previous videos, and it's really for future episodes. But it is always worth mentioning in any video about Comicsgate is that they lied objectively. They got caught in lies. They doubled down and supported lying and deplatforming, and we did none of those things. We're honest, and then we don't support deplatforming, even if it benefits us. Anyways, October 2017, back to the Jim Turner timestamps. October 2017, Marvel writer Dan Slott starts openly fighting with Doug Ernst on Twitter. And once again, the Twitter fight simply leads to giving more attention to the anti-SJW comics voices. For several weeks, Dan Slott aggressively tries to widen the Twitter fighting with those guys to include other comics pros. And that's kind of the thing when it goes, the behavior of SJWs is that they hug box too, of course. But, that's never been new news to us, is that they'll always try to sort of slink back and cower behind other creators and other pros and fans or any supporters that can.
It's not unique to them, but it's also definitely a tactic that you should never engage in.
Yes. And again, it's another tactic that we never have, but Comicsgate has. And SJWs. SJWs and Comicsgate both have engaged in that tactic against us multiple times. And not just Comicsgate either. Like fucking, I guess the whole I Stand With Vic people who we have nothing to do with and never said anything about, they decided to do that apropos of nothing. Guys like, Yellow Umbrella and Nick Arcada and stuff did that because they basically got shown the fuck up by us on accident. By embarrassing themselves through their own actions, and then we would be like, wow, you embarrassed yourself through your own action, and then they would immediately cower behind their fan base or their subscribers. Or
I looked into that stuff at first, and it was like, the first thing I heard was like, oh, he's been accused of molesting girls at cons or something, and as soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, they're probably lying, and he's probably innocent.
Yeah.
And the more I found out, the more it sounded like, okay, his own side is completely untrustworthy.
Yeah, his own side is like Vic Mignogna's supporters are pathological liars. So it's like Vic could be innocent, but all the people supporting him are mentally ill pathological liars who are in hysterics and denial and whiny bitches who act like they're tough guys. It's the most effeminate, like, mirror reverse of reality humanly possible.
His own defense ended up fucking just wrecking him.
Yeah, Vic's career is kind of destroyed because of his defense. Like, he actually had to distance himself from his supporters because of this, and he was right to, but too little too late in a way. So I kind of feel bad for him still, but at the same time, a lot of that was him making his own bed, so it's really it's unfortunate. But I also, the last of my sympathy had already been expended at that point. So that, I mean, and that's a whole other situation, but it does kind of tie into comicsgate because they sort of saw themselves as sister movements along with the Phantom Menace, which is also like dangerously mentally ill people who are constantly in a hug box where they're constantly trying to
call
jack each other off.
Fandom. They even call themselves Phantom. Phantom's in the fucking name.
Yeah, and they're named after one of the worst movies ever made. Not just the worst Star Wars movie, but one of the worst movies ever made. On an objective scale, of course. That's not my opinion. It was continuing to the timeline. October 2017, retailers revolt against Marvel at a meeting of the New York City Comic Con. See, this was mentioned before, but this has a little more detail. The YouTube critics and SJW comic creators pile onto both sides of this business dispute. 7th of October 2017, Ethan does his first known video on YouTube. Again, apparently he did like some kind of podcast where he, like years earlier, like 2015, I think, he did some kind of podcast where he would like target people for harassment that were his own friends and that kind of stuff, and was very suspicious. And Ethan,
I didn't even
long
know
ago
that.
has deleted and covered up.
I didn't even know about that.
Well, that was the That's the whole Alfie story, which we covered in another video from a couple years ago.
I remember that. I don't really remember that. Which goes to show, I mean, just look how much shit these people engage in. I can't even keep track of it all.
The incriminating behavior that proves that comicsgate is a corrupt movement with corrupt people is so numerous that just trying to cover even a little bit of it is more than even we can keep track of. That's why I'm reading Jim Tuner's timestamps, because it's like a lot of shit that even I forgot. But also, worthwhile and worth bringing up because it provides a lot of context too. Let's see, 13th of October 2017, Marvel creator Nick Spencer quits Twitter over hostile fans. He's taking massive heat over his series Secret Empire, where Captain America was a Nazi. 14th of October 2017, Tom Brevoort gets dragged into Dan Slott's fight with Ernst, and the term toxic fandom gets introduced to that discussion. Which again is really a lot of whiny, limp-wristed sissy slap fighting when it's between people at Marvel like Dan Slott and Mark Waid and someone like Doug Ernst, who is also kind of a big faggot, at least in my opinion. Although not really in my opinion, in objective scientific quantifiable observation.
Go ahead, bring an argument.
Yes.
Let's hear it, because so far I've never heard one. These people are just constantly losing.
Yeah, we've shown like fucking. I still have that screen cap of Doug Ernst throwing a whiny little bitch fit because I mentioned that Richard doesn't seem to be very competent at leading a whole fucking thing or even having good points. He seems like a liability, and fucking Doug Ernst threw like this whiny little faggot whine fit, and it was just like, wow. That almost seems to come out of nowhere, but it was also not exactly surprising because, Doug Ernst was sort of that comicsgate thing where it was about fandom worship and fandom entitlement and also weird amounts of dishonesty and that kind of thing.
Wow. Gay dick sucking.
Basically gay dick sucking. November 2017... Richard Meyer does his dark roast as a private video for his friends, eventually leaks out and effectively destroys his reputation. I wouldn't even say necessarily just effectively destroys his reputation, but it was, as he said, a bad idea. And it showed that he was really just a fucking complainer and not really...
I still have that. I never listened to it because I kind of can't stand listening to him for more than 10 minutes.
He said, like, if you want to see it, just email me. So I emailed it. I emailed him, he sent me the link, and I watched it. And the funny thing is, I never leaked it, but it was, like, very easy to leak because all you had to do is email him and get the link, or just have the link and link it to somebody else. And it's like that, not that hard. But the thing is that I also don't think he said anything in it that was really significant or important, or even necessarily that interesting. Like, what we had said is funny, something we used to laugh about. just a year or two ago, is that Richard's dark roast is like fucking 1% of the average shit we would say in any of our videos. Which we felt we could say in a lot of our, especially the older Shitty Webcomics podcasts, because most of those were just not being watched by anyone. It's like, well, that's good. We could just say whatever the fuck we want then. And we
We're
didn't
certainly a
care.
lot more entertaining and interesting to listen to.
Yes. Yeah, it like revealed Richard to be kind of a real dullard because it's like, oh, here's the dark roast. It's really, and it's just like he says that Heather Antos is a cum dumpster, and it's like, okay, so we said that Kate left fucked horses.
Said that before he ever said
But the thing
anything.
is that he would say that like unironically and be like, she fucking sleeps you way to death. We would just say Kate left fucked horses because it's funny and because it's clearly like
People would even ask,
traumatizing to
why
SJW people.
horses? We would get asks. People were asking, why horses? Why are
Yes.
you accusing her of fucking
Or
horses?
other people would be like, I can't believe I saw her fuck a horse once and the horse died or something, just it was just
Go into,
clearly a ridiculous joke.
it was funny.
Yes, it was treated as nothing but a joke. And the thing is, it wasn't a joke that would be like, now tell her we said that. We would be like, haha, that. And it's like, we didn't encourage anyone to fucking even spread the word about that past the walls of our blog or anything. It was just we would post it, and people would choose to come and show up and be offended about it, which wasn't even that often. Because I think to do that, they would have to admit that they read our blog or saw it in any way or were familiar with it in any way. So they would try to avoid doing that, which is, again, something that comicsgate would later do as well. The same way SJWs did it, comicsgate did it too. The exact same behavior. Um, anyways, let's see. I will, this is about 23 minutes, so I'll wrap up and we will we'll continue. I think the next part should be the last of this. If you want to see all of the episodes or all the parts of the episode early before any of the loser plebs are allowed to see it, become a Shitty Webcomics pay pig on our Subscribe Star. The link is in the below description. And remember, should have listened to Shitty Webcomics. Okay, this should be the last part of this episode about the like Jim Tuner timelines about the 2017 era of the comics industry and Comicsgate, sort of the early or proto Comicsgate.
The
Although,
real true story of comics.
yes, um, a lot of this part, the wrap up here and the last stuff is about late 2017 when Comicsgate was basically a thing, just not fully officially. That didn't exactly happen or start until maybe 2018, or at least the beginning of 2018, or the end of 2017, where ironically and strangely, the end of 2017 is also when Ethan Van Sciver said, "There will never be a Comicsgate. Sorry, kids." But anyways, just continuing on in general.
It's weird to think of somebody being wrong about something they themselves said.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because it's like, how much credence should I even give to Ethan for being wrong or right about that statement? But you know what? Whatever. I can give that one a pass.
You know what? You know what might be a safe bet is to just ignore everything he says and does from now on.
Put it filed away in the dustbin of history. If knocked
Dump
over a
file,
dustbin in Shaft's breeds.
file him under G for garbage.
For garbage. Anyways, so the last bullet point was Richard C. Meyer doing the dark roast, which, as we said, was pretty tepid in general. And I actually do still have, and yeah, it's not even really worth listening to because it's not really interesting.
Really, is he a member of Black Twitter now?
Blitter,
Do
you mean?
dark roast?
Yeah.
Are ya?
He's part of Blitter. I don't know.
Twitter.
Anyway, so after that, 13th of November 2017, or 2017, not 2017. I'm kind of a perfectionist. Anyways, Ethan does a
2006. 2006. It's like saying 2000. And by the way, the number 6.
Also, the number 6. Anyways, so yeah, November 2017, Ethan does a weird interview stream with Dan Slott, who has been fighting with Doug Ernst and Richard C. Meyer. Which I remember that interview because I was like, okay, let's see what he has to say for himself from somebody who's allegedly a friend of his. The same for Mark Wade also did an interview with Ethan because they were allegedly friends, and that gets brought up in a couple notes. So 17th of November 2017, Axel Alonso, the Marvel editor-in-chief, is removed, effectively ending the SJW Comics era at Marvel, at least the officially stated SJW Comics era at Marvel. Now it's just sort of like, in a way, goes underground. And from what I understand, Marvel isn't so overtly SJW era, but let's not forget, all of this is still before Safe Space and Crawl Space. Fuck, Rape Kit and Crawl Space, whatever those characters were.
Crawl Space.
One was called Safe Space, which I kind of resented because I had already written a comic called Safe Space, and it's like, now they're ripping me off.
Undeniably a better comic. Undeniably better.
What was the other character called? It was like Safe Space?
Snowflake and Safe Space.
Oh, yeah,
and they're
Snowflake.
Trying to think of the one with the internet gas.
Yeah, that's right. That was the one, actually, with the I think fucking Safe Space was powered by internet gas.
No, I think there was some other dumbass
Well,
one.
it was something involving that, though. It was from that same writer, apparently.
Yeah. Basically the same shit.
Yeah. But the thing is, there really is no difference between a guy like that and just the general comic book nerd. So it's pretty sad. Anyways, so yeah, Ethan Van Sciver does that weird interview with Dan Slott. 17th of November 2017, Axel Alonso is removed. 21st of November 2017, Dan Slott drags Fabian Nicieza into his Twitter fights with Doug Ernst and Richard C. Meyer. 27th of November 2017, Ethan does a weird interview stream with Mark Wade, who has been fighting with Richard C. Meyer. Wade is upset with Ethan after the interview. Again, they were weird. I remember them. They were definitely weird interviews. The thing is that Ethan was just also pretty much as weird, but he wanted to kind of, I think, set up, guys like Mark Wade and Dan Slott as being sort of the opposing, like, strange, uncomfortable guys. But the thing is that the stuff that people like Dan Slott and Mark Wade believe, they're like 50-year-old bald nerds who have been superhero comic fans, all their lives, basically. So the things they believe are inherently stupid. The thing is, all you have to do is showcase it. You could do the exact same thing with anyone in comicsgate. If anyone challenged them or questioned them on any of their beliefs, they would look just as stupid, and in fact, oftentimes have looked just as stupid as Mark Wade or Dan Slott came off looking. Weird or stupid or just uncomfortable, or the things they say are like fucking cringades, that kind of thing. November 2017, Marvel writer Larry Hama unfriends Richard C. Meyer on Facebook, which Richard practically takes as like a personal attack or something. Was this some kind of personal attack?
Yes, like, this is the guy who made G.I. Joe, I think.
Yeah, Larry Hama was a guy that Richard idolized who wrote a bunch of G.I. Joe comics in the 80s, which is, of course, the 80s. I love nostalgia, that kind of shit. The driving force behind Comicsgate was nostalgia.
A video that was about the music industry, and it's like the most popular music, all the genres in general. It's 80s rock. That's just the most popular music today.
And kind of the best, to be honest. Really the best.
Better than all the rest.
Simply the best, yes. 2nd of December 2017, Richard reviews a Max Bemis comic, and Max Bemis directly responds on Twitter to say he fucking hates Richard, which, again, sissy slap fighting. It's what we used to describe a couple of years ago as faggot versus faggot. 14th of December 2017, Ethan Van Sciver does his first live stream with Doug Ernst. Again, Doug Ernst, what are you going on with Ethan Van Sciver? Ethan starts to slowly get into trouble with people in mainstream comics for platforming people like Ernst and Richard, which also, of course, shows how weak, the SJW side was when they're fucking like, how dare you speak to... It's the same thing they say about people like Toe Rogan, where it's like, you had this Nazi fucking Tim Pool on, and it's like, really? Nazi Tim Pool? He's one of the most milquetoast
Yeah,
fucking kind of limp wristed.
they call absolutely everybody a Nazi. They call each other Nazis.
Yes. They're constantly Nazi hunting to the point where there has never been any, and they're fucking gonna just keep looking for
They
more.
clearly desire Nazis.
They love Nazis. Again, it's been pointed out before. They love Nazis to the point where there aren't any, and they have to manufacture imaginary ones, sort of like white supremacy. There's no such thing as white supremacy or white supremacists. People just imagine. Most of the things that are called white supremacy are just completely imaginary.
90% of the fucking
Right,
KKK.
it's more like 99%, and the other 1% are people who basically say that Asians are actually genetically, have higher IQs than white people, anyways. And so that's the remaining 1% of white supremacists. 15th of December 2017, Last Jedi released into theaters, which is really the biggest boon to Ethan Van Sciver and comicsgate. Because even today, a lot of people, just to show you how devoid of principles the fandom menace is, a lot of them still talk about Ethan Van Sciver like he has any legitimacy in the Star Wars fandom, when many people who are familiar with Ethan know that he wasn't really even a Star Wars fan by his own words. He wasn't really that into Star Wars until Last Jedi came out and he realized he could just milk it for fucking YouTube clout and clicks and attention and basically backpats, which is what Ethan Van Sciver is really about. What his career is about is having fans hug him and placate him and sort of try to heal his wounded emotions and his abused psyche. Let's see. December 2017, Richard is included in a Bleeding Cool list of influential people in comics in 2017, which again goes to show, first of all, how irrelevant comics are, but also goes to show how much like they just hated somebody who got popular, because Richard was not saying anything new, and he wasn't even putting it that much more.
I know he made some comics.
He wasn't saying it really any better. The thing is, he was a failed comics creator in the past who had given up already because he had fucked up a couple like giant things that were kind of like just catastrophic, very easy to avoid blunders.
Implies that he ever had the ability to make anything.
Yeah, that's also true.
And it went wrong.
It's also
what
true.
we need to be more clear about is that he never had it to begin with.
Yeah, he never really had any talent. And the thing is that his writing style is that of like a really low rent, like TV movie Hollywood writer who just writes by the most cliched formula that, like, if you saw it as a movie, you would walk out. But
mean,
if
if
you
you
see it as a comic book, you think, oh, that's okay for comic books.
Listen to his fucking opinions on movies.
Yeah, you just listen to his opinions on anything, really, and you realize that he's basically half a tard, not even a complete full whole tard. Which, again, not our speculation. It's objectively true. Anyway, so that basically wraps up 2017, and then Jim Tooner caps off with a few early 2018 events as teasers, which I don't think he ever did another comment or a timeline for 2018, but basically this series that we're doing is getting into that to some extent. But he mentions 9th of January 2018, Ethan does a live stream with Vox Day, aka Teddy Spaghetti.
Or spaghetti.
16th of January 2018, Ethan does probably his first live stream with Richard C. Meyer. This is Ethan, as in Ethan Van Sciver, of course. 18th of January 2018, Ethan does a video based on his recent video to Dynamite Comics, who will eventually become his behind-the-scenes publisher and distributor a secret sort of like under the table publisher, which he wouldn't admit to and act like he was being independent. But it was Dynamite who was doing the publishing and distributing for Cyberfrog and several of Ethan's less reputable, or in one case, overtly fake Indiegogo campaigns, which they were just bilking their customers for money for like basically fake products at this point, or reselling
But
them the same old shit with a
I want
different
to make
covering.
sure that people understand when we say that it's like fucking fake Indiegogo campaigns. It's not like he ever got called out on this by his audience
Yeah.
or anything.
Well, in fact,
He's
his audience helped cover not just his audience. His audience helped cover it up for him, but his friends, like other YouTubers, also helped cover up and in fact lie overtly for it. To the point where some of them weirdly started cutting off contact with their real life friends over this kind of stuff. It's very, very weird, weirdo, creepy behavior on their part.
He made $1 million.
He made $1 million, just like the guy who invented the pet rock.
This is according to him. He's the most successful creator ever, the most successful fucking independent.
Yeah, he used to openly say that he had the most, like when Cyberfrog made like $600,000, he said it was the most successful comics crowdfunding campaign, which was not only false, but there were several examples of other comics that made more money.
I mean, it's false in that his comic wasn't the most successful, but also, I mean, he's a fraudster. He has one wealthy backer, and then he has like 9 separate campaigns.
Actually, supposedly he has like a couple. There's the guy in Texas, the plastic surgeon in Texas who was able to spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes $10,000 at a time to artificially pad Ethan's campaigns and other things. But there was mention of a guy in Las Vegas who also was like a willing pay pig. That one I'm less familiar with. The plastic surgeon in Texas though was fully doxxed, and a lot of his paper trail of artificially padding Ethan Van Sciver's Indiegogo campaigns was it was laid bare. But there's actually more to dig into that people just haven't done. But me and my brother are familiar with it because people who know some of these people behind the scenes have come to us to tell us about it. So we're very familiar. It's actually been confirmed independently.
Just a very simple fact that he has 9 separate campaigns for one comic book.
Yeah.
Which Indiegogo, it's actually, or is it Indiegogo?
Yeah, it's against the Indiegogo TOS to start a campaign for anything without fulfilling the first one, and yet Ethan was able to do it. And when people asked Indiegogo why can he do this, they didn't respond. They basically we asked. We also know people who asked Indiegogo to comment, and Indiegogo did not respond or make any comments or any responses to the fact that they essentially allowed somebody to violate their own TOS. But also at the same time, in the aftermath of that, they started changing their site to hold on to people's money until they fulfill, or until the campaign ends, or in some cases, if they start a second campaign, you will not get any of the money until you finish fulfillment on the first campaign. And they also started holding specifically after Ethan Van Sciver, because they've been around for a few years before this. But after Ethan Van Sciver with Cyberfrog, where his comic was late, Indiegogo introduced a feature where they hold on to like 10% of the money you get. If you get so much money, they will hold on to 10% of it for potential refunds, because a lot of people started asking Ethan for refunds that he claimed he didn't have, or he refused to make good on. Or the same with Red Rooster by Mitch Breitweiser.
We have absolutely no information that he will give us about that either. If you ask
Yeah,
fucking
Ethan Van Sciver does not. He has not responded to comment. We've known people and also directly confronted him about that, and he's been caught lying several times about it, and then other times we'll just not even address it. But also, it's been public knowledge for years for anyone in Comicsgate to ask him, and Comicsgate refuses to hold him responsible because they don't want him to be a creator. They want him to be their leader and their Caesar. They want to worship him like a cult leader instead of a comics creator who they are customers of.
don't care that he's a fraud and a scammer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, they kind of want to be scammed through their behavior. That's shown through their behavior. They just want to be ripped off.
Those people, by the way, is quartering. I have no problem in mentioning that.
Yeah.
The quartering is absolutely a fucking shill.
Yeah, he wanted to drum up a little drama, but then when it sort of came down to holding somebody accountable, he reverted back to shill. And there were many other people who did this. Anyways, but that's all later stuff, which, again, provides context for current, these sort of 2018 situations. Yeah, the last one, actually, in the timeline, and for this whole video, this will wrap up the video, basically, is 23rd of January 2018. Tug moves from doing bad consumer electronics gadget videos to talking about comics. And one of the weird things about Tug is that it doesn't really have the money to do consumer electronics gadget stuff because he was fucking... There's a lot of really squirrely shit, but it's sort of like he's borderline unemployable, and without his YouTube channel, he would probably be homeless or something, or he'd be in some weird situation. There's a lot of weird speculation. A lot of that I don't really know anything. It's hard to confirm.
All we know about Tug, he seems like a retard.
Yeah, well, he also very clearly is exploiting his underage daughter for YouTube attention after whining that SJWs were trying to dox him to attack his family. He then, uses his children as sort of a way of gaining clout and YouTube clicks. So he's exploiting his family as he then tries to hide behind them. It's objectively cowardly behavior, of course. But there's other things on top of that that are even worse.
Is showing the face of your children.
He also got shown to be a pathological liar in several instances. Here's the thing: I have no idea if he ever showed the face of his children because I never watched any of his videos. I was simply made aware of his behavior and his pathological lying by people who were familiar with him, and of course the stuff that he lied about. But that's been covered in a lot of previous videos that were on our old channel, which Comicsgate sat around as we were getting false flagged. Comicsgate either sat around or were complicit or joined in on false flagging us over stuff that they not only lied about, but were more than willing to join in on lying about and refusing to even gather evidence or look at evidence. They didn't want to see evidence of anything. Comicsgate as a movement refused to look at evidence of anything, and they just wanted to listen and believe, which is why Comicsgate always has been a movement for listen and believe shills. And again, we'll be getting into more of that in future episodes, but we've also objectively proven that with several of our... Basically, the first documentary about Comicsgate was the one we did in 2019, where we went over just basically the sort of occasional daily occurrences of people in Comicsgate, to the point where we got some of them to have to backpedal and do damage control and that kind of thing.
Everything we ever fucking do, we've made a lot of videos and accusations, and they always have to respond to them one way or the other.
Well, we don't make accusations, we just point out what happened.
Mail coin, the whole mail coin situation, yes. We're the ones who did that.
Yeah, Ethan Van Sciver actually had a behind-the-scenes conniption fit. It turned out he had a fucking panic attack over the whole Mayo coin thing, to the point where he started going back and forth, violently fucking having mood swings, after we put I just made that fucking Mayo coin video just to show that his product was fake. It didn't actually exist. It was a complete lie. And he started going into these desperate mood swings. Like people who knew him were like, "Yeah, it's, Ethan's fucking, he's fucking melting down." And like he started dressing up in weird costumes, like he was fucking losing his mind. Um,
Is
and
that when
then
he started wearing
eventually,
wigs?
the end result of that was that he had to cancel and claim to refund the entire campaign, which was actually also a lie because he didn't refund people. Because I bought the thing and he didn't refund it either. I bought that one of those Ribbit coins, and that will be an episode. That will be a future episode where we get into the timeline of the Ribbit coin disaster and how it basically drove Ethan Van Sciver insane. Which again, not our speculation or observation. That's something that people who know Ethan personally was like, yeah, Ethan basically lost his mind. But that's also right out in the public. You can see Ethan losing his mind. You can see his hair actually go gray from the beginning of that year to the end of the year. It's pretty funny. But it's also why we're kind of the best and most suited and most honest people to do this. If you see anyone else do a documentary about Comicsgate, it's going to be like self-interested and biased. We're the only people who are capable of doing an unbiased
I
documentary about
don't know of
Comicsgate.
anyone else who
Mm-hmm.
has fucking attempted to do any kind of documentary or reveal on information or dirt on Comicsgate.
So a couple other people have talked like that they would do it, but they all of them are completely incompetent and
I saw
don't know what they're
somebody who was
doing.
trying to do a comic about it. They're going to make a comic about it. It looks ugly as shit, and it's also just completely
Yeah, there was
worthless.
some SJW comic about that, but that's gonna go nowhere. Like the only attention they'll get is from Comicsgate. Otherwise, nobody would even know about it. So it's like, who gives a fuck? Um, anyways, yeah, we're that's pretty much the end of this whole episode. The last part of this last episode. Plenty more episodes to come. If you want to see more of them, or help encourage more to be made sooner, or any of that stuff, go to our Subscribe Star. Links in below in the description. $5 will let you see any videos. $1 is just good for general support. We're just to show that you actually care about the truth in any way, or good comics even. Um, so yeah, check that out, and that's good. And it's good to support us because we're telling the truth. We're telling the truth that, in a way, we're speaking for a lot of people I personally know who really can't speak for themselves because they wish they could fucking come out and say, yeah, you guys are completely right about this. But if I said it, it would be seen as attacking the customers or something. It's like we would rather just have to stay out of that. And so me
A
and my
lot of
brother
people
are able to
rely
speak for
on
them.
us now. It's people who know that we need to keep going. We need
Yeah.
to keep existing.
And we do it just like Scorch. We do it for you people. We do. Hey, are you listening? We do it for you. Please clap. That kind of thing. Which is
Well,
quite nice.
let's please clap.
Yes, the $1 tier is the please clap tier of our fucking subscribe star. That's why I should really rename it too.
Please
Um,
clap for yourselves.
but the $5 tier will let you see all, like when we post an episode of this, it'll be in parts in public. But if you are donating to $5 tier, you'll be able to see all of it at once, anytime you want. Plus, you'll have access to other unlisted videos that we don't post in public and never will. So, that's always good.
There's an entire host of uh, fucking delicious archived videos.
Delicious. This is
Delicious,
delicious.
delicious, delicious.
Delicious. But yeah,
They're
there's
just
there's
sitting
a
there
whole
waiting for people to watch.
there's like at least 20 videos that I haven't even posted to the Subscribe Star yet. That will be, I'll post them to the Subscribe Star weekly, but as far as if you subscribe to us on YouTube, you'll never see them. You have to donate to our Subscribe Star to be able to see them at all. So, but also there's our comics, which you can check out. But, if you fucking know us, here's the thing, I don't really need YouTube to check out our comics. I don't really give a shit about YouTuber clicks because we're growing naturally without any YouTube backing or any of that. So, that's fucking. Basically, the YouTube's for our YouTube, and our comics are for our comics. And I want to keep them separate but
YouTube is
equal.
a nice outlet.
Yeah, that's really all the YouTube is for us to just say stuff that other people can't and that wouldn't be said otherwise. And that's always a good thing. So yeah, unlike, share, comment, don't subscribe. Um, New videos, will be posted eventually on our channel, I suppose. But as far as this kind of content, you can't get it unless you really donate to the Subscribe Star, because especially because it encourages us and helps us to actually make these videos at all. So if you want the truth to be told, go to our subscribestar.adult/shitty webcomics, and just go ahead and donate whatever you want. And aside from that, should have listened to Shitty Webcomics.